What's up, guys? Hello, and welcome to the newest episode of the Modern Goonies podcast. I'm your host, Trevor King Minor, and on the mic today, I've got my good friend Chandler.
Howdy doody.
And I've got my good friend Harrison.
Hello there.
Today is a special episode because we are going to be talking about Star Wars as a whole, and we're going to go through and review several of the movies in the series. We're going to start with one and then just kind of make our way through. I want to go ahead and apologize that we haven't really released a podcast in a while because, we actually moved. So this is a brand new place that we're in right now, in case you didn't notice. We're just going to go ahead and get right into it. So do we want to start by reviewing the first one, or do we want to talk about just it in general first? Or
I guess they're both synonymous, so we can just start with episode 1. I guess we can probably start with everyone giving their just like roundabouts opinion of it and then go into a little bit depth of it.
Okay.
Trying not to dwell too long on things. We got like 11 of these movies to get through, so we'll try and...
Yeah. We can expand on some of the ones that we care more about or whatnot. Yeah. But I guess we'll go ahead and do that. So we'll start with episode 1. Harrison, why don't you give your opinion first? What did you think?
So episode 1, on my ranking scale, it's definitely my second worst.
Understandable.
As a whole. Even though it was the first, I want to say the first Star Wars movie I saw. Like I had like a little roller backpack of it and shit, and like I was like a big fan of it. My dad was a huge fan, but then that is what got me into the Star Wars. Mm-hmm. That's weird to say for a lot of people because it's like, ooh, that's a bad start. But like, I mean, as a whole, again, like I said, second worst movie, but with that being the second worst movie, it's got the best fight scene, one of the best fight scenes, and I really like Qui-Gon as a Jedi Master. I really like Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan's one of my favorites as a Jedi. I hated like almost everything else about it. Like the droids were just super lame. The only ones that were cool were the roller droids that they introduced.
Droideka.
They were introduced in episode 1, right?
Yeah.
Those were cool. Pod racing scene was so fucking unnecessary. That was such a waste of film, in my opinion. With Anakin. I like his backstory, I guess, but that was unnecessary. Jar Jar Binks, cancer cell to Star Wars franchise. But in his whole story, that whole underground or underwater world thing, it was just a lot of like, why? But
side questy stuff.
Yeah,
it's good.
I would say that. That's all. Nothing too memorable besides the fight scenes for me.
Well, I know you just said there that it sounds weird that like that got you into Star Wars, but I feel like for especially a lot of people our age, that's kind of normal because that was 99 when that movie came out. We were only like 4 or 5 years old.
Not even.
And so we're like basically the brand new generation of people who got introduced to Star Wars, after our parents. So that's pretty normal for people our age. Yeah. So I don't look down to you. I don't remember seeing that movie when I was a kid, but I remember my parents telling me later when I actually got into Star Wars that I fucking loved that movie when I was a little kid. Like I was obsessed with it. I thought it was awesome, and I didn't even know. So I think that's pretty normal. So Chandler, what do you think? Your overall opinion of the first one? Oh God, he's got his notes. Fucking whipped it out.
It's. I was gonna touch on like we already like talked about it. It's really. We don't have to go too deep into it, but Star Wars is essentially for kids if you really want to kind of get into it. So like, there's a lot of things in Episode 1 that appeals to children, and I think that's why like it was really like we liked it whenever we were younger because when we watched it, like we didn't care about like all the like the flaws that we see in it. Like I have a big list here of things that I noticed when I watched it. I kind of want to touch on a few of these actually because it does kind of sticks with me. But
that's what we're here for, boy. Go ahead.
Well, we'll get your opinion on it too, and then I kind of want to just touch on a few things. We can go a little rapid fire on it, but it's okay. Qui-Gon's good. Definitely the best factor of it is the Darth Maul, Obi-Wan, and Qui-Gon fight. That was great because it really got to showcase the good like lightsaber duels compared to what we had in the previous original trilogy. Could have been more depth in it. Like it's really cool, like flashy wise, and what they can do. It's good. It's well choreographed. Duel of the Fates, one of the best tracks of the entire series. It's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, there is a lot of over glaring flaws that's hard to get over. Like once you get past the initial like allure of it, like being a child, like once you can kind of look at it more objectively, you can notice some of the issues with it. But it has its perks for getting people our age, like around that time, into Star Wars if they really weren't into it, the original trilogy. So I mean, it has its place, but overall, it's fairly weak.
Yeah, no, I'd say I'd agree with that. Yeah, no, as far as my opinion goes, I remember I watched it at one point when I first really got into Star Wars. I was in probably like, I don't even know, like 5th, 6th grade, something like that.
Right.
And I remember watching it then, and I really didn't like it. But then I watched it like later on, and I didn't hate it as much as I remembered. It's got its fucking plenty of flaws. Like, you know, the dialogue. I feel like the prequels is the first time you kind of start to notice that the dialogue is like really bad. Not that, I mean, like in the original trilogy, you know, it had some moments that the dialogue wasn't the best, but I feel like it's definitely more prominent in these prequels. You know, the pod racing scene, all of that, basically, you know, that whole segment of the movie is like a stupid gambling bet, like, if we lose this, we're all fucked. Yeah. And we're betting this on a child we just met.
And
like,
it is like the most complex, like gambling too.
Yeah,
like like if you just like if you're not really paying attention, he's like, I'll trade you this for this. Oh, we'll go for this. These credits are no good. All right, I'll trade you this. We'll go out on chance. All right, well, I want to up the stakes. I want to have Amy involved. You can't have him. You can
exactly.
have his mother.
It was too miraculous for me, and then it's like, oh god, the kid wins it. It's like, well, I mean, we knew that was going to happen. That's just dumb. It has its redeeming qualities for me, though, like you said, and I think that the pinnacle of the movie is the Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, and Darth Maul fight. That is one of the best fight scenes in all of Star Wars.
Yeah,
and it's in one of the worst movies, and that part is really good to me. I really like the whole Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan dynamic. You know, Ewan McGregor is one of the best things about the prequels.
Yep, me too.
I love his performance.
I like that a lot. He's one of the best.
Yeah, so I just think the idea, like, I like this is just the Republic. I like the idea of the Republic, and I think it's really cool. I just feel like this was a bad starting point, especially for the prequels. It's like we're in the middle of this trade war, and it's like, if you're gonna do that, you got to make this trade war like interesting. And I feel like a lot of it was
the
like,
politics of Star Wars are really bad in the first one. It's
it's
dullingly bad.
It's very political. That's one thing that I have on there. Like it seems weird because also like there's a lot of like when I rewatched them this week, the prequels. There's like probably like 3 to like 5 like poop jokes, like with Jar Jar, like he steps in like a pile of shit, and it's like and then like he looks at like I don't know a creature. Let's say it's a bantha, and he's like it like farts or something, and he's like, "Oh, it's a stinky." It's like, this sucks, but like so obviously like those jokes are there for like the kids, but then it has like this super like heavy like political stuff where it's like, I mean, obviously no kid's gonna like get this, but it's just not super gripping for a Star Wars movie, especially for like where they were going, like the starting point of it.
Exactly. So I watched this one thing one time, and I feel like this guy made a really good point. It was like, you know, when Star Wars, the original one, came out, like it was a good, even though it's later considered the 4th one, it had a good like starting, middle, and end. Like it as a whole, as a movie in general, it could stand on its own, and that's what made it great. So if you never made another one, Star Wars would have been a great movie.
Right. Well, that's good.
But if you made Episode 1 first, that was the very first one, people would be like, that was fucking. I was like, eh.
I was gonna point this out. So like, they had a big. It just like Episode 7, they had a big gamble with how are we gonna bring it back, and I feel like if, like you said, like if they would have started Star Wars off with Episode 1, it would have flopped. Like, it would have flopped so fucking bad. Yeah. Like it would have been so bad. Canned immediately. Yeah.
Well, I got something to add when we get to another episode in the prequel. I'll touch back on this, but I think we all kind of have like the same point. I want to touch on a few things that I have written down here. Some interesting things. Liam Neeson, interestingly enough, once I did some research into this one, whenever he was offered the position by George Lucas, he didn't read any of the script. George Lucas says, "Do you want to be in the Star Wars movie and be a Jedi?" He said yes, and he didn't read any of the script. So, and you can.
That was all him monologuing?
No. Like he didn't read any of the script before he accepted the job.
Oh,
yeah. Well, I mean, okay, that That's cool. I honestly, like, if I was an actor and I grew up with Star Wars, right, I would have done the same thing because, like, if we're going on the original trilogy, it was great. You would have never had any thought in your head like, oh, George Lucas is going to fuck this up somehow.
Exactly.
No one
That's
would have
why-
ever thought that.
Yeah, that's why it's just kind of like interesting. It's like because you would think the same as him, but then like maybe if he did read the script, he might have been like, no.
Qui-Gon's one of the Liam Neeson is one of the best actors out of the Jedi too. Like I think a lot of them, like you were saying, both of y'all were saying, like the acting kind of got worse somehow, like into the prequels.
They're really hit or miss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Qui-Gon just his acting, even though it's really just Liam Neeson kind of being himself how he is in the movies, it's just still like a wise, tough, like your dad. Like it's like kind of like your dad.
He has a very good mentor.
Yeah, exactly.
No, so like like I said, one of the biggest issues with the prequels is the dialogue in general. So I don't really, at some points, I don't really blame the actors for the bad acting because I feel like a lot of it is, man, how do you make this sound genuine? Because I noticed even in some of the other ones like Mace Windu, Samuel L. Jackson, great actor, and even I'm like watching him act, or Natalie Portman, fantastic actress, and I'm watching them like sound like they don't know how to act, and I'm like, I know these guys are superstars, I know they know how to act, so at some point it's like, okay,
that part where she talks to Anakin about the younglings is cringing.
Dude, no, Obi-Wan straight up, like the Ewan McGregor, like almost, he has to like cover his face, he's almost laughing in that scene, and you can see
He
it.
killed younglings. I'm like, why?
He can get to
Killed younglings.
Some other things I have here we talked about. It's too political. It was really it's hype. It was real hype inducing. Like they brought it back, and it's like that's why it's super popular. But I mean, I think I see that a lot of similarities of that to Episode 7, The Force Awakens. It's actually really interesting too. Is I don't know his name, the actor for him that played Jar Jar, but like he got like incredibly depressed like after that movie because he caught like so much hate because I mean obviously
I'd bet
his character sucks, but I mean he's an actor, he's doing what he's supposed to do, but he got like extremely depressed, and I don't know if I didn't look too far into this, I just knew this from a long time ago, but I don't know if he had to like get treated for it or anything, but I know like he had like some issues from it and he never really got back into acting.
Well, the kid,
I was about to say that too. It's the same for Jake Lloyd, the
played
kid
Anakin.
Yeah, I mean kid actors, they've pretty much all sucked, especially in the prequels. They were all pretty shitty, but I mean, it's a kid actor, what are you gonna do? But he never acted again after that either, and he was like bullied throughout high school. Like he'd just be called like the Star Wars kid, and he was like constantly berated too.
To get bullied for something like that.
Oh yeah, no, he got so much hate for that
it
shit.
shows
insane
kind of the dark side of the dark side of like the Star Wars fandom, how you can like really lose sight of
Harrison Ford's like
people
that,
and that.
Like Harrison Ford is like he talked about how he's so glad he was sorry camera spoiler
This whole thing is a spoiler.
Yes.
Spoiler alert, fucking
like Harrison Ford is like, so he was talking about how he was so glad he's killed off, like he was like,
well, no,
I can't fucking wait.
There were a lot of actors in Star Wars that hated the idea that they were in it later. Like Alec Guinness, the guy that played Obi-Wan in the original trilogy, he absolutely detested it because he was like this really prominent actor and he was like a really famous stage.
It limits your acting.
Well, yeah, and he was a really famous stage actor, and the thing that everyone knew him from was Star Wars, and so
he just didn't want to get like typecasted as
you're
Obi-Wan.
And he got fucking pissed off. Like they put that line in Episode 7, like mumbo jumbo, because like Alec Guinness would constantly refer to all of the dialogue as like mumbo jumbo, like he fucking like he hated it. So
yeah, it's like the same thing we talked about on that last podcast about Adam Sandler, where like you get typecasted and like you're known for Happy Gilmore, but you want to do stuff like Uncut Gems.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that was the thing is that he had done all this other shit before, and he was like a really like prestigious actor, but he was only known for Star Wars because it was so popular.
Yeah, that was one of like the biggest actors in Episode 4 was Alec Guinness. But all right, so let's try and rapid fire through this. I think we're getting caught up. One thing I don't like, metachlorians. It's weird, like that he adds that in.
Specifically in Episode 1?
Yeah, that's when they bring it up. Like it's not mentioned at all
as a
in the
whole,
original
though,
trilogy.
You don't like it?
It's weird. I don't think I think it kind of takes away from the mystery of the Force, and I think that's what's appealing is that it's very mysterious. Not that many people know about it. So when you add in like a metachlorian count, I feel like it just gives like if you're in a video game, like it's a stat. Like you have a higher metachlorian count, you're stronger, like type of thing. it's just kind of weird. Like
Yeah.
I could kind of understand like why he adds it to try and give like that like science fiction-y like feel to it, like give some more science to it. But it's got bad reception throughout the years. They haven't really touched on it like at all. Like outside of really, I don't even think they might mention it in 2. I didn't pay attention in it, but I don't think they.
I think
about
yeah,
it in
I think
3.
episode
like, it was just kind of
yeah,
dropped.
they pretty much bring it up in episode 1, and I never really hear anything more about it after that. So like that's why I don't really mind it all that much, because it's like, okay, here's this explanation we don't need, but they never really touch on it after that, so like it doesn't really bother me all that much.
Well, I think it definitely dropped off because I heard something about JJ saying he doesn't fucking care about it either. Like
I don't feel like anyone really
it
cares
complicates
about
a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Yes. To touch on that though, and this will go into all the other movies. What is different with Star Wars is like in a superhero movie, like the Marvel movies, like you kind of have free will that you can do what you want. But Star Wars started off as movies before it became a big cultural phenomenon. So, and everything like so far has been canon for the most part. Every like bit of like comic book or stories or movies are all like
most of it
in one big universe. So like when you add something like this, it has to carry over into the others, and that's we're gonna touch on that.
That'll pop up more and more as we talk about these.
So
movies.
it's just something to like add to that. Like it's just I see why he added it, and I don't think he realized how much like it could have like lasting effects on the Star Wars universe as a whole. But digress. It's something odd.
It's a lot to talk about.
Yeah. We'll go through here. One thing we didn't talk about him. Darth Maul, great. Darth Maul's awesome.
He's fantastic.
Yeah, one of the best villains. Interestingly enough, he has like 4 or 5 lines like in the entire movie, and he's one of the most menacing characters. And I think that's why he's one of the most menacing characters. It's like you just have the look of him. Obviously, is very visceral, but outside of that, like all the like the kind of cheesy like dialogue like takes away from the threatening and menacing vibe of like your villain. So I think he was a great villain.
Less is more in that.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
No. So my funny thing with Darth Maul is that like I love that Obi-Wan borderline kills him in that movie, borderline because he comes back in like the animated series and whatnot. But I also hate that he was killed off so early because he was so fucking cool and people liked him a lot. Also, one thing that has been pointed out by multiple people that I always thought was really funny is that in episode
the high ground.
Yeah. In episode 3, he's like, I've got the high ground, don't fuck with me. But then like in that one, he's literally hanging like down a tunnel.
Well, they talk about how he learned. That's what he used against Anakin.
Yeah. Well, so like I'm totally
That's what I've always heard.
I'm totally cool with the whole like. I've always felt like the high ground thing was more like a mind fuck because it's like I've got the high ground, don't try it, and he knows that he's gonna do. If I bait him into doing something stupid, he's probably gonna do it because his ego is off the fucking roof. Like through the roof. So like I get that part of it. And like that's like the theory I subscribe to. Because a lot of people think the high ground scene is stupid. Like, oh, I've got the high ground, like I win. It's like you just but like I feel like the point was like I'm goading him into doing something really fucking dumb and he does it. But either way, I always thought that was funny. Like I've got the high ground and then he's literally like dangling and he fucking jumps like 20 feet over his head and
all right, something else. We gotta get through these. We're hanging on. Then the pod race scene, it's stupid. I mean, we talked about the pod race scene. It's unnecessary. Everything on Tatooine's unnecessary. Next time you watch The Phantom Menace, look at it, and it's like 80% of the shots on that is left to right pans. Like, there's head-ons, like whenever like the camera's like facing whoever's driving the pod, and there's like scenes in the back. But whenever it pans, almost every shot is left to right. Like, they come around a corner and it's like, and it follows it that way. Almost every single one. There's like maybe 1 or 2 where it goes right to left. It's just like, just put the camera in a different spot, George. What are we doing? I thought that was interesting. I saw that whenever I was on there. Another thing that I want to touch on that is not in any other movies, Force Speed or Force Dash. Remember like when they do that, like in the very first scene, they're on the droid frigate and they're trying to get into the command center, like Qui-Gon's like cutting into like the door and then the droidicas show up and they're like, oh, gotta go, and they just like take off, like they dash off and go.
I forgot about that.
Fast speed.
I seem to have forgotten
and
about
that's
that
like
too.
It's not in any other movies, and even in the same movie, like whenever they're in the Darth Maul fight and they're like running down the tunnel, like the corridor, whenever like the red laser doors are like closing in on them, and like Obi-Wan's like trying to catch up to get to Qui-Gon, like. just force dash through it, and you'll be right there too.
Yeah, I forgot about that shit. That's in video games too. Like you can use that. Yeah, you can use that shit. So no, I forgot about that.
That's weird. I seem to have forgotten that. That's
like it's just major. Like it's just something weird, and this pattern comes up in other movies too, like where you do something in previous movies and then it's just like completely forgotten about.
Yeah.
Like to go back to it, like that's what's different about Star Wars is it's all one big universe. So you introduce the force dash, force speed, like it's always going to be a thing. So whenever it can be used and it's not used, obviously it's a pretty easy skill to use because Obi-Wan used it and he was a Padawan. So I mean, people can use it, and when it's not used, it's like, well, you could have used your force speed here. Like that's a problem that the Star Wars universe faces.
You're just like begging for people to scream plot holes when you don't. When you bring an ability like that up, and it's like, why aren't you using that the whole fucking time? Or like, why didn't you use that? Yeah, you're right.
And that's semantics there, but it's something to think about. Food for thought. Another thing, real quick, when Anakin gets in the starfighter thing, he puts on the helmet. It fits his head. Oh, why? It's for adults. He's a kid. It shouldn't fit.
Does it fit perfectly?
Yeah, like he puts it on and like the goggles fit. He's like, Obi-Wan told me to stay in the cockpit, R2, so that's where I'm gonna stay. And he like puts the helmet on, the goggles fit. It's fucking perfect. Like it should be like all wobbly around. It doesn't. It fits fine.
Oh, I'm thinking of like the pod racing helmet.
No. When he gets in the Naboo starfighter, like at the end, like it's just like
I feel like that's a little thing, but it's funny. You're right.
Yeah, like it's like it's like one of those things where like once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah,
and I've seen it. Let's see what else we got here.
I've seen it.
They're little things. They're little picky things like that. We don't need to get onto it.
This is Hate on Episode 1 podcast.
It is, right.
Like I said, it's got its redeeming qualities, but it's definitely the first one that you're like, man, there's a lot of shit in here that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
I mean, it's universally known that, like, obviously before we get into Episode 8, it was just universally known as the worst Star Wars. Like, I think everyone agreed.
I feel like that's true.
I think that's a good segue into Episode 2.
All right, let's go ahead and jump into it. All right, so this one, we already know going in that there's a little bit of a point of contention because we know Harrison likes this movie a lot. Chandler and I kind of disagree, but we'll go ahead. We'll let Harrison give your opinion. What do you think of Episode 2?
This I was going to segue a second ago into the politics part. So this is where I think the politics get like more interesting, and I think this is where they start. Like they realized Episode 1 was so dull and boring. We need to take this somewhere. I think that's where like the war was coming up, and they were like, let's just connect it. Like let's show where the politics start becoming like more interesting, and you can follow them and actually
get to the real meat and potatoes of the story.
Exactly. And so I think for one, it's the reason it's one of my favorites is because the whole clone segment war is so fucking dope to me. I watched that movie. It was the first Star Wars movie I owned also. So that's probably why it carries more. Mm-hmm. I had like a DVD set where it came with like special features. I watched it so many fucking times. Like I just watched it all the time. I loved Yoda fighting. I thought that was fucking dope. I loved watching Yoda just bounce off the fucking wall and shit. Oh, and this was also something I did. I like that they took the shitty, horrifyingly bad puppet of Yoda from Episode 1 and made him CGI. Now, obviously, CGI Yoda is not the best either, but it was a definite glow up from the first one. Because I don't know if you remember what he looks like. Mm-hmm. Yoda from the first one looks horrible. They
retconned it. They went back and like CGI'd him in the first one.
Even in the special features for the second one, George Lucas admits it was bad. It was just a bad decision.
They had a shoestring budget. Well, actually, I don't know. I know Episode 4 was shoestring budget. I think 5 like it got more, but still, you can only do so much.
Yeah, the original wasn't.
No. Those puppets for Yoda in the old one were fine, but like I'm saying the first one as in Episode 1.
Okay.
Episode 1.
Oh, okay. I'm with you. No.
Because the whole thing is basically that whole movie was just CGI for the most part, and then you have this puppet. It's like, really?
Okay, I'm with you.
But what I mean, they did the puppet in the not to go off on a tangent about puppetry, whatever. But like in Episode 8, mm-hmm. they brought back Yoda, and he looked fine, and I'm like, why was that good, and why was Episode 1 fucking horrible? Like that Yoda was bad. Like I think the screen time for Yoda was very minimal too.
In Episode 1?
In Episode 1. And it was just bad. The puppet looked horrible. But either way, that's like... Anyway, so I liked Django. I have a really big thing for bounty. I'm like one of those Star Wars fans. I love the bounty hunters.
They're really interesting.
I like them. Mandalorians, I guess. Or no, is he a Mandalorian?
No, he's not a Mandalorian. No.
He's just a bounty hunter.
No, he's not a Mandalorian.
He's not?
Mandalorian. Well, we don't have to get into that either.
Well, he's not strict on the religion. If you
he's
want
not. He's not a Mandalorian at all. He's a bounty hunter, and it's rumored that he stole a. It doesn't specify where he got his armor, but he has a Mandalorian armor. But he is not a
canon?
Mandalorian.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's what it was. Because I'm like, there's something with
It's
Mandalorian.
probably like
and Boba,
he killed a Mandalorian.
You'll find this out when you watch the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Like he killed a Mandalorian, and he has a Mandalorian armor, but he is not a Mandalorian.
That's canon. All that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I like the bounty hunter thing. I like how they introduced Boba Fett. I thought that was cool. I like again, they've made the politics more interesting. They showed a lot of other Jedi out there. Kit Fisto, like one that I wish was super more appreciated because he's really good in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, that's
super fucking
one thing
dope.
that we'll talk about when we get to it.
Yeah.
The only thing I didn't like is the actor besides the Yoda puppet. So the actor for Hayden Christensen, he's fucking horrible. He's a terrible actor. Yeah, he's just not good. He's just not a good actor. And, Episode 2 is my favorite movie, and it's Anakin. He's the main character. But I just don't like his acting. It's just really... He's just not a good actor. Like that's just, I can't go into more detail. He's just a bad actor in my opinion. But there's a lot of fighting. I like there's so much fighting going on.
It's a lot more action.
Way
than
more
episode
action.
1 for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obi-Wan shows his super dope colors. Like you see him doing more action. You see him as a master finally. And yeah, I mean that's as simple as I can put it. Pretty much.
Okay, I'll give my opinions on it.
Yeah.
I definitely think it's one of the worst. Like, I think it's the worst of the prequels. I mean, I agree with you on some points that, like, it definitely has more actions and it cranks it up more than episode 1. Mm-hmm. But the biggest flaw, and I know Trevor will agree with me on this, is the romance between Padme and Anakin. It's just horrible. Like, there's no other word to describe it. It is horrible. There's no redeeming qualities of it. It is god-awful. It's like comically bad, like how much it is. When we were watching it, and me, John, and Trevor, we were rewatching it, and there's just some like we had to pause it, and like we were just busting out laughing from some of the dialogue. Like it's bad. But I will agree that I do like that they're expanding upon the universe because episode 1 was really closed. It was mainly all took place on Naboo, which I don't like either. And episode 2 really bronzed it up. And the Clone Wars is my favorite era in Star Wars. Like the Clone Wars animated series really expands on it. And it adds a lot more depth to it. And after watching, I haven't finished the series. I'm on like season 4. I'm trying to finish it. But watching from that, like it really just expands on so much lore of everyone within that era. And seeing it in episode 2, like they just don't. I mean, I understand like you don't have enough runtime to give so much to each character, but there's so many things that just could be better. I mean, I disagree. Like, I think Hayden Christensen's he's a fine actor. I think it's like what Trevor said. Like, you could only do like so much with the material that you're given. Like, he's given horrible lines. Like, the most iconic, I hate sand. It's coarse, rough, irritating, and it gets everywhere. And he looks at Padme, he's like, but here everything is soft and smooth, and like touches her hand. And then they like go in for like the most awkward kiss like ever recorded on screen, and it's just like, oh my god, I can't watch it. My skin.
Yeah, I don't know what you're supposed to do with that dialogue.
See, but
like, there's nothing he can do with that. I think he's a fine actor, and my favorite scene from him in that movie is after he kills the Tusken Raiders whenever his mom dies, like, and he gets back.
His rage.
Like, yeah, like, you could see it. Like, it is kind of like bad dialogue where he's like, the women and the children, I killed them all. I hate them. But like, you could see, from my perspective, I could see Hayden Christensen doing the best that he can to portray the emotions of his character like he's supposed to with the lines that he's given. Now, I think as a whole, like, if everyone had better lines, like, their acting would look a whole lot better. I think, like, obviously his performance is poor, but I don't think it's due to his acting quality. I think it's due to his script lines that he's given.
I've never seen, I don't know if he's done movies outside of Star Wars. I wouldn't know.
He's done a few.
But I just disagree with it. I think he's just not good.
So I've seen him in Shattered Glass, and that movie is great. And he does a fantastic job. He's not a bad actor, because I've seen him in like a couple of things. Shattered Glass is the main one that I've seen him in. Fantastic. He does a really good job there. I definitely think that, like I said, this is more due to the script than anything. I think the person that did the best in all the prequels is Ewan McGregor.
Yeah.
Like I said a couple minutes ago, I think somehow he managed to, I don't know, really be able to run with it. But I think he's really the only one. There's a couple there's a couple of other people that did okay, like the what was his name, Christopher Lee, that played Dooku and things like that. Like
does okay.
They did a good job. But like I said, like even Samuel L., some of these lines, I'm like sitting there like looking at it, I'm like, that was really bad. Or like Natalie Portman. And Natalie Portman's a fucking great actress.
She's won Best Actress. She won Best Actress for Black Swan, so she has the capabilities. But you can only do so much.
No, exactly.
With the material
She is an amazing actress. But there were some lines I was watching in episode 2 that I'm like, that was bad of her. And I'm like, and I know she's good at what she does, but that was bad.
The scene, like whenever like Anakin's like sitting there, and like after like he has like the dream, she walks into the like she walks into the room, she like looks at him, and then just turns around and walks away, and he's like, I had a nightmare. Like it just leaves.
So like I disagree with the sentiment that he's not a good actor, because like I've seen him in some stuff and he is a good actor, but I just really think in the prequels in general, the dialogue is just terrible. It's the worst. It's really
movie.
Bad.
I think it's the worst in this movie. It is.
Yeah. So I guess
it's not all bad. I'm not going to say
no.
like there's obviously good points in the movie too. We can touch about that too. I think the worst scenes, like the ones that I had to like pause it. Me and John were just like picking it apart. Was like the opening, not the opening scene, but the chase scene, like after Padme, her ship gets destroyed and like her double is killed, and we're like, all right, well, someone's trying to assassinate Padme, but we keep her like in the same room she's always in, and then like we have this plot thread where Jango hires another bounty hunter or assassin to kill her, and like the whole scene is just like, we could talk about it for in length, but like the whole scene is bad. Like there's so many other things that could have happened. Like Jango should have just killed her himself. She's in like this big ass room where like this whole like back wall is all glass, like, and you could easily just like get from the side and just like beep, just sniper.
So so before we dive too far into it, let me give kind of like my base opinion of it.
Sorry, I'm ahead of myself.
No, you're good, man. So yeah, until episode 8 came out, this was probably my least favorite one.
I agree with that.
It's not that it doesn't have a lot of action in it, because it does. Like the movie.
The third act is like all action.
Yeah. So the whole portrayal of Anakin as like this whiny little bitch is something I take.
He is a little bitch. In
the biggest problem with, and like I said, I don't blame Hayden Christensen for that. I blame George Lucas for that more than anything, because he's the one directing the character. He's like, this is how my character's supposed to be, and so
he has the final say. So
yeah, and so like for whatever reason, he's like, hey, yeah, let's make Anakin this fucking like whine about everything. I hate that. Because in the old trilogy, it's like he's supposed to be this badass dude. He's this amazing fighter pilot, and for whatever reason, he just bitches about everything. And I hate that. So that's probably my biggest problem with the movie. That the romance scenes are like Chandler was saying a minute ago. I mean, laughably bad. They are.
Like I've seen better romance in like the Hallmark like Christmas movies.
Yeah, I really don't.
I can agree with that.
Yeah, the romance scenes are just really, and unfortunately, they take up quite a bit. They take up a lot of runtime.
In the second act, like after Camino, then that's when like it goes to the events with Anakin being her bodyguard on Naboo.
Yeah.
It takes up a good portion of screen time, and it is a definite dip in quality. Like it's just out of place.
I feel like a lot of it could have been, just skipped over or more subtle or something. But
it's necessary to the overall story of Anakin and Padme and why he becomes Darth Vader.
No, I'm not denying its importance. I just think its execution was really bad.
I agree.
Because like I like the idea of like this forbidden love type thing. Like I think that's really cool. I just think the way they did it I'm not a fan of. So that is the whiny bitch stuff, and then that is my biggest problem with the movie. Also, I'm really not a big fan of the inclusion of like Dooku so randomly to me. That one's weird to me. So like I know there's a lot of lore. I know there's like the Clone Wars and stuff like that, but for like the average, just a movie goer, right? To go to the first movie, you're probably not going to watch a whole lot of in between. You're just going to go to the first movie, then you're going to go to the second movie. So for the first movie to never even mention him like at all, and then all of a sudden in the second movie he's like this big bad guy that like he's pretty much the main antagonist of it, and it's like, who the fuck? Who is this guy? Where did he come from? Like
you don't even see him until like halfway through the movie.
There's a lot of exposition. I like Dooku. I like Dooku a lot.
I think it's almost. Sorry, I won't cut you off.
Anyway, so like I like Dooku a lot, but I thought it was weird to just throw him into the second movie, and then the like first scene that happens in the next movie is he's killed off. Like I thought that was a little weird, but I'm trying to think of something I can give as like a more redeeming. Once again, Ewan McGregor, I like him in this movie a lot. I liked the clone stuff. I liked all the stuff about Jango and Boba. I thought that was cool. Like there are scenes where later on in the original trilogy where Boba's following the Millennium Falcon, like he learns that from Obi-Wan doing the same thing on an asteroid belt. Yeah, like I like that a lot. I think that's really cool. Like you said, I like the whole clone aspect.
It's very subtle that way.
Yeah, exactly. Like I like the whole clone aspect of it. I think when fucking Mace Windu cuts Jango's head off, I think that's one of the coolest fucking scenes. I like that scene a lot. But the whole ending of the movie for me is there's some parts that are literally, they look like video game levels. Like where they're in that whole machine room and like things are like, all right, I have to time this right to get past it and to not, get crushed. And then everyone's doing that. I thought that was,
to touch on that, one thing that I looked at after I rewatched it, I went and watched some more reviews and did a little more research on it. But that was like one of the last scenes like added. Like George Lucas just like, I think we need something else here, and he added in like that whole like 15-minute scene where they're like in the assembly like construction area, and like Padme's in a fucking pot for 10 minutes, and R2's flying around, and it's not necessary. Like it's kind of cool. Like on surface level, it's interesting, but overall, like it just, do we need it?
Yeah. So like, and then the whole ending part, like there's a lot of action, and some of it's really good. Some of it does some weird shit that I'm not the biggest fan of. Like, so they cut the people off of the show. Like they're up on those totem poles, and like Padme cuts herself free, and then Anakin comes by on this fucking like, I don't even know what the hell this thing is. Something
rhinoceros.
Yeah, rhino looking fucking thing.
Yeah.
And she like jumps on the back of it, and like the first thing she does, she like jumps on the back and like kisses him. Like I'm like, that is the cringiest fucking thing to throw that in there.
I want to talk about that. Like another like cheat, just the other like a cheesy line. Like right before like they're captured, and they're getting like drove into the arena, and this is what she says. Like she like looks over. I don't know how she starts, but she says,
"Oh yeah, yeah.
I've died a little every day since you came back into my life." And it's funny because when we were watching it, like we all look at each other, we're like, "What?" And then the next line from Anakin is, "What are you talking about?" And that's exactly how we all felt. She says, and she's like, I am so deeply in love with you." It's just like nobody says that. Like this just it's like so unnatural. Like
I think that's when I looked at everyone. I said, George Lucas has never fucked a woman.
I remember that. Yeah.
I was like, he does not know what women say. All right, so enough of base opinion. I can see you holding back over there. So what do you think about?
So I think Dooku, like something about Dooku. I can agree that Dooku was kind of just, here you go. Like he was just kind of
we killed our antagonist in the last movie. We need a new one. Here's Dooku.
Yeah, I mean that's true, but Dooku's not my favorite. In fact, I kind of hate him. I don't really like Dooku. I like Christopher Lee, and I think the character was almost written for Christopher Lee.
I can see that. Yeah.
And I like when I think about it,
Granddaddy Sith.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like if you look at who Christopher Lee is, and if you know who he is, he played Dracula. He's played
Bond
big,
villains.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
No, he was a big name.
You know, like it just fits, and it's like that was kind of easy. Like it's like again,
it's a good casting choice.
That's true, and I'll counter to that too, because I mean it's kind of like with Obi-Wan, he just took it and ran with it. He just was himself. But like, she's snoozing.
Harrison's
She
wife is
hella
passed out
snoozing.
on the couch.
Love you, babe. Psych. Anyway, anyway, I think it was just like written for him, and it was just kind of like he's just, it's weird for me. Like I just don't like him as a Sith Lord. I think he's just kind of like there's kind of like how you said about the whole Jango could have just killed Padme thing. If they just make Dooku so fucking powerful and they leave him open for a lot of people to kill him, and they just kill off all these Jedi for no reason. Like there was this dinosaur looking fucking Jedi dude like hopped up and like right where Jango and Dooku was. It was during that whole battle scene.
Yeah, in the arena.
You don't know. I don't even know who the Jedi was. He just looked like a fucking dinosaur.
I think he was just he was a no name. He wasn't a master. And
But he
on the
like
council.
he like jumped up, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I forgot how to block. Like I forgot how to block a blaster shot. This is also talking about episode 3. I can go into a lot about the whole Order 66 thing because this is one of my most.
I literally when you said that,
it boils my blood.
When you said that was the first thing I thought of. I was like, yeah, there's a lot of that happens too.
Yeah, we'll talk about that because that boils my blood and that almost makes me hate episode 3. But so anyway, so again, they just like they kill off, and again, this is another thing about episode 3. Just a lot of Jedi, just like, oh, that dude's got some sick moves, and they just kill him. Kind of like Jango. I mean, they did this with kind of like Boba too in the old movies. Like what they did with Jango. Like Jango,
like
you saw him,
a big build up, and then it's just kind of like,
Yeah.
like when he gets killed.
Well, George Lucas admitted later on, he was like, I didn't realize that he was so popular with all the fans. Otherwise, I would have made more for him.
Yeah, it was just he had no control.
He's still in the Sarlacc pit.
He made a character.
He's not dead.
He just made a character that was really good.
Yeah.
He didn't know it was going to blow up like that.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened. He was like, "Oh fuck! If I had known that, I would have done something more." But,
this doesn't help my case with defending episode 2, but he should have learned that with episode 2. Like he should have been like, oh, "Okay, people were like Boba, cool. Let's make Jango."
People will probably like Jango.
Yeah,
too.
and he did the same thing, and it's kind of like, damn. And that's my most disappointing thing about 2 as well. That I keep forgetting. I keep forgetting to mention stuff, but. You wrote more notes than I did, and I'll just play off of what you say mostly. But I think Sith like skill level wise and like lords and stuff. I think Dooku is not my favorite. I feel like they were just like, what could we do to get Christopher Lee as a Sith Lord, and they wrote that script. I think like it just feels like that to me. Well, versus him just being natural. I think it's how I feel.
I'll add to that. You should watch. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it before when we started the podcast. We were talking about it, but you should watch the animated Clone Wars series because he is the antagonist in it. Like, and it is so to get a timeline of it. And episode 2 is the start of the Clone Wars. And I think that's like one of like the closing lines is like Yoda's like, "This is the start of the Clone Wars" or something. So whenever you watch the animated series, like he is the big bad in it, and it gives a lot more to him. Like you get to see him do like badass shit and like fight off like all kinds of like Jedi and everything. It gives, and this is just we can talk about that too if we want to like get into it very like kind of briefly. I don't think anyone's watched it but me, but it gives a lot more to his character and that he's a lot more badass than what he seems. And it's just you have so much source material with the Clone Wars.
Sure.
And I've talked to Trevor about this. I wish they would have not done episode 1 and they would have just made 3 movies out of between episode 2 and 3 because the Clone Wars is such a pivotal era within Anakin's story and there's so much to unpack there that you can do.
I mean, that's why they made the Clone War animated series because there's just so much. I mean, even before like the extended universe and the lore really from episode 2 and 3, you just knew there was a lot of stuff to unpack that they didn't show you.
The events between episodes 2 and 3 is like super expansive, but Dooku gets a lot more love in that than in the movie. And kind of to touch on that, like I think the lightsaber fight, like at the end, is one of the worst. Like it's cool to see Yoda like fighting, but I think it kind of takes away from Yoda in a little bit, because Yoda is always like the head of the Jedi, and he's always the one that's, you don't use your weapon if you need to. Like, you're always like, use your mind, like, type of guy. Like, he is like the smartest of them. And when I see him just like jumping around doing like all kinds of crazy flips, I'm just like, it just kind of takes me out of it. Like, it's not bad per se. Like, it's really cool to see him actually use his lightsaber and get in a fight. But before that, when Obi-Wan and Anakin are fighting on him with Dooku, I think it's laughable, like how bad it is. And
Anakin and Obi-Wan's is laughable, or Yoda was?
Anakin and Obi-Wan, like when they're fighting Dooku, and like they just get like mowed down. But there's some scenes, I mean, and there's only so much you can do. Christopher Lee he was old whenever he films that he can't do.
Right.
And you got to cut in between like his stunt double doing the saber fights and like close-ups of him. But there's like a scene where him and like, it's just like back and forth of like close-ups of Anakin and Count Dooku's face, and they're just like twirling their lightsabers like above their head. I'm just like, what is going on? I can't even see what's going on in the fight because you just have a close-up of his face. So we remembered that it's actually Christopher Lee, and they're just I'm just like, just do a fight.
I was gonna touch up on another thing. I think one cool thing to look at from episode 1 to 3 is the progression of, we're getting better with choreography. Because episode 3 has one of the best fight scenes ever.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that. But, like, I think you slowly start realizing, like, these actors are actually choreographed. A lot of it. Like, obviously, when they're jumping or fucking, like...
Yeah.
Like, Dooku doing a fucking jump from, like, a 20-foot thing. That's not him. But, like, a lot of it is just, like, they get those really good close-ups, like you said. Obviously, that's a bad one that you mentioned.
It just went too long.
Right, for sure. But, like... the one I want to go off on is on episode 3. So anyway, we
can jump to that soon. So my main thing with the prequels that I'm gonna definitely agree with Chandler on is I feel like the prequel should have started at the beginning of the Clone Wars and then ended with episode 3. I think that would have been a really good prequel trilogy, because like you said, the Clone Wars are pivotal and one of the most badass things of Star Wars.
It's my favorite era in Star Wars.
Like,
it's so great.
The whole Clone War, like the end of the Republic, the beginning of the Empire, that's fucking cool. I like that a lot. And I feel like we could have... I feel like episode 1 was too much of a going too far back in time. I feel like if we had started at the beginning of the Clone Wars and just to the end, I thought that... Because like a lot of people, like, when they watch the original, they're like, the Clone Wars, what the fuck is that? That sounds badass. Like... I would have liked that a lot better.
You get such a tease of the Clone Wars with the movie. You don't really get...
I can 100% agree with that.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think that would have been a lot better of a creative decision. But
we got what we got.
Yeah, we ended up with what we had. But why don't we go ahead and because we could probably talk about this one for a long time. Let's go ahead and move on to episode 3. So
let's do it.
Yeah, all right. So Harrison, you've been first this whole time.
So with episode 3. Damn, she is out.
No, not anymore. You said that. She looked at you like she was gonna fucking murder you.
This whole podcast has been talking shit about you.
Yeah, fucking Lainey in episode 3, terrible acting.
So with episode 3, like I was saying, the choreography.
Hang on, before we get balls deep in this, because I think this one's gonna take a while. Does anyone need a refill? I'm gonna get another drink.
Nah,
I'll take some ice.
I'm sitting good.
If you don't mind.
You want a whiskey ball?
I'll take that. That'd be great.
I'll fix you up. Let me see your drink.
Sure. So what are we talking right now still?
It doesn't. Well, I mean, while he's doing that. Wait.
Well, you can go ahead.
You want to go ahead? Okay. All right. So go ahead. Go ahead. Keep giving your opinion.
What I was trailing off into was about, I think, the choreography so far before we got 7, 8, and 9.
Mm-hmm.
The choreography was at its peak. And I think you get, besides the Darth Maul fight scene, you get the fight scene with Anakin and Obi-Wan, and it's fucking awesome. Like, it's like back just trading blows. Like to the point where, like you mentioned, where like they're posted up on the high ground, it's like, damn, like,
here you go, sir.
Where the fuck are you gonna go at this point? You know, like,
dude, well, that fight scene's almost like 30 minutes.
It's
like,
so long,
fucking
and it's
dope.
so good. And then, as a person that is like into like darker shit, I'm like, yo, Anakin, like, your best acting. And when I was gonna say, I didn't get to say this. Hayden Christensen's best acting is when he's in rage mode, and when he's like pure, like he leaves the angst behind. He's just kill.
Yeah, well, exactly.
He's really good.
That's
at
what I'm saying.
Like
I think in that movie, there's a whole lot more to go on, and so in this movie, if I had gotten this Hayden Christensen in the other movie,
I agree.
it would have been a lot better.
I completely agree.
Because I actually like him in the next movie. I don't think he's a whiny little bitch anymore. Like there's some parts where it's like, okay, he's being a whiny bitch, but it's not as prominent as in episode 2.
And I think to just say something and leave it. So with episode 2, I think he had, just like in episode 3 too, he had a reason to be bitchy because it shows his ego still taking over. Like Mace Windu and Yoda were saying he's not ready because they knew it. And you got to think about it in your shoes. Like you're a kid, you're getting hyped up. Like obviously we don't think episode 1's the greatest movie, but with episode 1 still being out there, you're a kid, you're being told you're the chosen one. Like that's a lot of hype, and you're like, oh, bet I'm the fucking chosen one. That's gonna get to anyone's head. So obviously with that, you got to train him not to be egotistical, but it's hard knowing you're the chosen one. So with episode 3, you really see him just like, how much fucking longer? I'm fucking ready. And it's like, you're not. We sense some fucking ego still. And it's like, you're gonna fucking kill younglings, dude. Like, you're a piece of shit. Like, you're the fucking worst human being in the galaxy. And you don't even fucking know it yet. So, anyway. So, we get the best choreography. We see the best acting out of Hayden Christensen, in my opinion.
I think that's a unanimous decision.
Yeah, that's what
we were just saying. I was like, if I had gotten that Anakin in the second movie, I would have been a lot more content.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we get to see like the darkest side at that point in the
Just real quick, interesting too is that's the first PG-13 Star Wars 2.
What have they been rated? I've never even
PG
really
the whole time.
I've never thought.
I don't know about the newest
I think
movies.
Oh,
I
shit,
haven't
I
paid
actually don't
attention
know
to
about
them.
those.
I've never paid attention.
But
to
that was the first
That
one.
was the first one of the previous 5 movies.
Yeah. Well, you were talking about like being dark and gritty. The whole
It's
being
so
on
dark.
Mustafar, this fucking planet
Oh,
of just it literally looks like hell.
It's a volcano
It's
planet.
fucking gnarly.
It's fucking
Dude.
cool.
It's great.
And then you just and to put some backstory onto this, so this was, I remember about to go see this movie. Shout out to this throwback of a human being, David Allen. I ran into David Allen at Sonic, and
I think that's who I saw it with, him and his dad.
I might have seen you there. I didn't even know it. That's weird.
That's
But
who I saw it
did you
with
see
in
in Greenville
theaters when
movie
it came
theater?
out. Yeah.
Oh goddamn, we probably saw each other. That's weird. Was there a stormtrooper there taking pictures and shit?
No, I don't remember that.
There's a picture of me with a stormtrooper. He was chilling at that
That's
showing,
awesome.
taking pictures. There's a picture of me somewhere with that. That's fucking old.
Shout out David Allen.
Shouts out to David Allen. But anyway, I just gotten back from Walmart. The hype of Star Wars was real. And I was like, I'm about to go see this movie. Now, me being a child and
Probably about 9-10 years old. It
I was
came out
definitely in 4th
2005.
grade. I think 3rd or 4th. Pretty sure.
I would have been 9 years old.
I kind of knew, well, not even kind of, I knew, because the old movies were already out, that, hey, this has got to go somewhere. He's Darth Vader. So, like, I was fucking ready, but I hadn't really processed how intense this is going to be. Like, this is, like, even for my dad, my dad was, like, not even ready for it. Like, he was, like, all about me being hyped up. He was letting me buy all the fucking toys. Like I got a Anakin, one of it, that in the first scene where he's, like, flying that ship, his, like, cool fucking ship.
The Jedi Starfighter.
I had one of those.
I had one of those
Dude,
too.
it was so cool. I had one of those. Anyway, so, like, the hype was real. And as I was watching this, I just remember being that young and being like, this is definitely the darkest Star Wars. And at that time, I was approaching into, like, darker, just, like, my hobbies and interests were getting that way too.
Maturing.
Huh?
You're maturing.
Yeah, and sure. And so, like, I just remember being like, this is dope. Like, I was just like, this is, like, it was at one point my favorite. But as a whole, I think episode 3 is what y'all would say everything episode 2 could have been. I think. And that's what I'll leave that on.
Go ahead and give your opinion. I think that for me, that's a pretty fair statement.
Yeah.
I have a lot of similar feelings with you, like, about, like, the time it came out. So
Real quick, are these Death Star ice?
no, that'd
they
be
could
cool.
be.
I could
if,
have sworn
would've
that one of
been
them had, like, the
awesome.
little
Yeah.
oval thing in it.
I mean, we'll leave that to your
that'd been cool.
imagination, but
Sure.
nah, they're just
Yes,
ice
it
balls.
Anyway, sorry.
So whenever it came out, I was probably like 9 or 10 when I saw it, and I don't remember seeing episode 1 or 2 in theaters. It's like when episode 1 came out, I was like 3 years old, so 3 or 4. But I remember the first Star Wars that I saw was the first one, and I rented it at the Tawakoni Public Library.
Goodness
like on
gracious.
VHS.
I didn't even know they had that
Yeah,
in the
and
library.
I would
You
get
can
it
rent
a lot.
movies from there.
Yeah,
Shit.
and I would watch that one a lot. But episode 3 was really like the first time where I could like, I'm old enough to articulate the story.
Sure.
And it was really a pivotal time, and that was really like, as a child, like everyone has like you said, like episode 2 was like one of your favorites, like when you were a kid. Everyone has like that kind of nostalgic like grasp to their favorite movie, and I have that with 3. Like whenever it came out, that was like the peak of like when I was a child, like my fandom for Star Wars. I've been hooked ever since.
Right.
But whenever that came out, like I was just like riding the wave of Star Wars. I had like all the toys that came out, like whenever they would introduce like new like toys that came out for
too.
like every episode, like I would just beg like my parents to get me something. I ate it up. I loved it. And when episode 3 came out, it's my favorite of the prequels for sure. Like the tones of it, it's much darker, and it's the story that George Lucas has been wanting to tell the entire time, and you can really see it like through it. It's the story of Anakin. It really, like, if we're going on like 1 and like 2, like you kind of see him getting a little bit darker. There's like a couple scenes, but in 3 we really get to see like his turn, and it was awesome. And like whenever I saw it like in theaters, it's like almost like a religious experience. Like it was like so awesome, and it's the best Star Wars that I had seen at the time. I don't think I'd really seen 5 or 6, which arguably better, give or take. But I love episode 3. There's flaws with it for sure. Like some of the dialogue is still kind of goofy.
Still bad.
Sure.
Still bad. But
there's a few like canon issues that I have with it that doesn't make sense when you compare it to what's happened in the Clone Wars, the animated series. But overall, I love it. I think it's one of the best. The fight scene is great. I love the dynamic between Obi-Wan and Anakin. Like at the end, it's fantastic. It can be maybe a little over the top for some people. I've seen the argument that it's over choreographed, the fight scene. But watching it as a kid, like it was
badass.
It's so awesome.
Yeah.
The music is incredible. Just like everything
Yeah.
leading up to this, like it is the boiling point of this the entire story that we've been wanting to see, and it's the apex of it. And like seeing it as a kid, it's like it's indescribable almost. Like it's so awesome. I love episode 3. I love it.
Tad, one more thing. So 2 and 3 are my favorite, to answer your questions, because I know you said the difference between all 3 of us is that 2 is one of my favorites, and for y'all it's not. 2 and 3 are my favorite, like one of my favorites. And one more thing I was gonna say was the con of why I didn't like 3 was how Order 66 killed off everyone except Yoda. And
well, hang on, before we dive
but-
too far into that, let me give my base opinion.
Okay, yeah.
'Cause
So
that's pretty much all I had to say.
Yeah.
Like I liked it.
my
Okay.
apologies.
I like it.
No, you're good. I'll go ahead and admit that I probably see this movie through rose-colored glasses more than any of the other Star Wars movies because, and so like I'll admit I'm probably biased on more things, or maybe I'm willing to overlook some of the dumb shit that's in it more than others because. I remember when this movie came out, and like Chandler said, the hype was fucking real at the time. Like all kids my age were like, "Dude, you got to go fucking see Star Wars! Like this movie's awesome!" And you know, Anakin becomes Darth Vader and shit like that. And so like I didn't even know what any of that was. Like who's Darth Vader? And so like I knew my dad liked it, and so this episode always holds like a very special place in my heart because it was really the first one that kind of introduced me to the whole universe because when that happened, I remember I walked out, my dad was going on some fucking like steroid kick. He's working out all the fucking time with his friends down in the barn. And I like walked down in there and I'm like, hey dad, like I know you really like Star Wars and I don't know, would you want to watch like the movies with me so we can go see this new one together? And like all of his friends like busted out laughing, but he was like, yeah, sure, like it sounds great. And so like we literally sat and watched like all the old Star Wars movies so we could go watch this new one.
That's what it's all about.
And yeah, so just me and my dad upstairs, like on a school. My dad had never let me stay up on a school night, but he was like, my son wants to watch Star Wars. We're staying up fucking late on a school night to watch
Shout
Star
the
Wars.
fuck out to Michael fucking Myers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I would do the exact same thing if that was my kid.
yeah,
Hell
so because of that, and I remember him and I, we went in theaters and saw this movie. I can't even remember where, but like, yeah, we sat there and we watched that shit together. And I just remember as a kid, like I fucking loved this movie. Like this was like my first in theater Star Wars experience, and
Mine too.
loved it. Like Chandler said, there's definitely some dumb shit about the movie, and I know there is, and I won't deny that. But there are some things that are just fucking great. Like the whole Kenobi versus Grievous is awesome.
Off the chain.
That's fucking
Hello
nuts. Yeah, General Kenobi.
The set of
yeah.
balls on Obi-Wan, by the way. Let's just hold on. Let's take into consideration. Let's just put these balls on a platter and just admit they're gargantuan. Like
Yeah.
they're fucking.
Obi-Wan's a
monsters.
badass, dude.
Another side effect of Episode 3 is it probably had some of the best memes to come out of Star Wars.
Oh hell
too.
yeah,
That's
dude.
The high ground, like
Yeah.
if that doesn't inspire like anything in Fortnite, then I
Yeah.
don't know what else does.
Dude.
Hello there, General Kenobi.
Dude, yeah,
it's
so
great.
So that scene, fucking awesome. The whole scene against Anakin and Obi-Wan is almost. It's got that one dumb part where they're literally just both standing there, just
Yeah.
twirling it in front
Where
of
they're
each other, and it's like, is no one
And
gonna
then
hit
they
each
go in
other?
hit.
Like, what the
Yeah.
fuck is that? So like that's dumb, but like that whole scene in general was awesome. And then one of my this is probably one of, if not my favorite scenes in Star Wars, is watching that motherfucker get all of his limbs cut off when he does that jump, and then he's like burned alive. Like that maybe that's the darkness in me coming out. I don't know. I fucking love that scene. I will rewatch that scene anytime it's popped up. I fucking
too.
love it. And then like the dialogue there, like you can actually, as bad as some of this dialogue has been in this whole trilogy, this whole prequel trilogy series, you can feel the emotion in that scene more than anywhere else.
It definitely makes up for all the problems.
Yes, because like literally, like almost on the point of tears, he's like, "I fucking loved you, Anakin. Like you were my brother," and he's like, fucking red-eyed, like almost getting burned alive. Like I fucking hate you, and it's you. Both of them, whether you think Hayden Christensen's a bad actor or not, like that scene. Was,
yeah.
you could
It's
feel
a
the
convincing
emotion there. Yeah,
performance, yeah.
It was good there, and I loved that scene. I loved seeing him turn into Darth Vader. The screaming no thing was stupid, but no, that was dumb. But
Yeah.
watching him get all the shit put on him, that was so cool. And then both standing there while it's like his arms crossed, like while it's-
Crushing the fucking
crushing
shit with his fucking mind.
breaking up, and like he's sitting there, he crosses his arms, and he's watching like the skeleton
Oh my God.
of the
Yes,
fucking
dude.
the Death Star being built. It's so cool. I love this episode. This is one of my favorite Star Wars movies, and
too. Top
I
three
always
for
felt
sure.
embarrassed saying that like later on because people always hated the prequels. But Episode 3, I really like it. I really like Episode 3.
Did you notice when he's getting built, Anakin? Did you notice the Empire symbol is below him? Like so like if you notice
where at? Like,
so
like
when
on
like
him?
the overshot of like I guess is that the right word, overshot?
Yeah.
Like where he's sitting on the table.
Like when the
there's-
mask is coming down.
No,
on
no,
him?
no. When he's still like burnt up, they're
Yeah.
They're putting the arms and shit on him. There's like wherever they're building him, like underneath him is like the logo, like the little gear looking thing or whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah,
for the
I wouldn't know
Empire.
how to describe it.
It's
but I know what you're
it's
talking
right
about.
below it, and then the next shot of Padme, there's a shot of the Republic or the
Jedi symbol, maybe
something like that, like somewhere. But it's all symbolism. Like it's not like blatantly there.
It's
like,
that's just a really good scene as like Darth Vader is being born, Padme is dying too.
exactly.
Yeah.
You know what? I changed my mind about 2. 3 is better than 2 to me, but 2 is still one of my favorites. God damn, y'all have made me remember how good 3 is. It's so good.
I also love like whenever he's getting like he has like everything else on and like the mask is getting lowered to him, like you can just see it like as like it's like coming down and like right before it gets
like
to his
what
face.
he sees.
Yeah, it'll like show like it shows the mask coming down to his face, and then the next scene cuts to his face like as the mask is getting lowered, and you can just see it in his eyes. He's like, Like, you can see fear, and I love it. It gives so much depth to Darth Vader's character. Like, knowing, like, his character arc in Episode 6, how he comes around and he becomes Anakin and he fulfills the prophecy of being the chosen one. Like, it's great. Like, I don't know how you can think it's bad. Like, there's obviously flaws with some parts in the movie, for sure.
The only flaws are, like, the acting.
Yeah, some, like jokely dialogue, I think, is really just the biggest thing, but I love that. That's one of my favorite things. And like you said, like the whole fight scene, it's great. But I can see the argument that it's being over choreographed. I don't necessarily agree with it, and it's a fair argument.
Maybe with Palpatine.
Quite frankly, I don't give a shit in that whole fight scene. Even if it is over choreographed, I don't care. The action's so fucking good, and literally, you feel tense. You know how it's gonna end, but you feel fucking tension the whole time.
That's what makes the lightsaber fights good, is you have to have something else. Like, it can be really cool. You're like, oh, that's really flashy. Like, in Episode 1, like, it's a great scene, like, for sure. Like, the action and the choreograph that's going on with it and the music with it is awesome. But there's not, like, a whole lot of depth to it. Like, you're just like, yeah, like, I don't really care for these characters, like, so much because I haven't grown with them, but you've watched Anakin and Obi-Wan go through the same 3 movies and knowing their story in the previous original trilogy, and it just culminates to this one moment. And like, I could watch their, like, the final, like, ending scene, like when they first get to Mustafar and Padme's talking to him and he chokes her, and then Obi-Wan's just standing there on the ship, like, with his arms crossed, and the entire, like, dialogue back between them is awesome. The fight is awesome. Whenever it ends, and he's like, I loved you like a brother. You were supposed to bring balance to the Force, not leave it in darkness. Like, it's so good.
Yeah.
And there's not a whole lot. And it's mostly because, like, that's the one that really sold me on the franchise.
Yeah.
Is that movie. But it's, like, the only scene where I can get emotional, like, watching it every time. Like, it's just, it's every so time. Good.
Yeah.
Like,
every time.
Just thinking about it, like, can really just, because it's such a pivotal point, like, where we watch it. And I feel like that's what a lot of people have, like, just generationally with whatever trilogy you grew up in. So, like, if it was, like, an older person that grew up with the original trilogy, maybe, like, the fight scene between Vader and Luke in Episode 5 is, like, really what, it might be really emotional for them. But for us, I can see between me and you, and probably for you as well, like, that scene is just, it's so powerful to me. I love it. It's so good.
The last 15 minutes of Episode 3 is...
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like you said, it makes you overlook all the dumb shit.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's so good. And that's honestly one of my bigger problems about some of these newer movies, is that you don't really get some of that payoff that you do. It's so, like, even if some of the dumb shit, because dumb shit happens in every single Star Wars movie. There's always, it doesn't matter which one it is, there's always some dumb shit that happens.
It's definitely not a perfect franchise.
No, not at all. And I would never claim, like, man, this is such a fucking tightly written plot. In almost any of them, like, they all have their bad moments. But in almost all of them, there is this big redeemable thing about them. And in Episode 3, that is the whole ending half of the movie is so redeemable. It makes you look over all the dumb shit that happened later, like before it. And
couldn't agree more.
I love that. So let's go ahead and move on to another one. I want to spend the least amount of time on the old trilogy, so we can kind of just give, like, a base opinions. That's pretty much.
Well, that'll be easy because we all tend to agree.
Yeah. So, like,
there's not a whole lot that we can add that hasn't been said by everybody.
Yeah. So we'll just spend the least amount of time here because I really want to get into the newer Star Wars.
Yeah, me too. That's the big. I want to spend the most amount of time on the most current one.
You know, just base opinions of the old Star Wars, I guess. Harrison, you can go first with Episode 4.
Yeah, let's set a time limit for those. Let's try and, what do you say, wrap them up in, like, maybe 5-10 minutes at the most.
5 minutes is probably good.
Okay.
Episode 4, definitely out of the old trilogy, my least favorite, but that doesn't mean it's bad. I think it's just, like, but because, like, 5 and 6 to me are so fucking good that 4 is just the least, if that makes any sense. It's like 5 and 6 are so fucking good.
It's the worst of the best.
Exactly.
Okay.
Which isn't a slate.
That's what I mean to say. Yeah, it's cool. I mean, you get the introduction of Han Solo and Chewbacca, the most iconic people. My favorite, I mean, fuck, I was named after Harrison Ford. Like,
shit, I didn't know that. Are you serious?
I was 100% named after Harrison Ford.
Oh, shit.
yeah, I mean,
Wish
it's just,
I was named after someone cool.
yeah, it's
Fuck Chandler Bing.
Damn it, I was gonna say that.
if I don't get to meet Harrison Ford in my lifetime, and that's a very big gamble because I don't think it'll happen. But goddamn,
The clock's ticking. He's getting up there.
Harrison Ford, we're calling you.
Harrison Ford, if you want to come to Dallas, Texas, we're here.
Please, I'm begging.
Not what I thought he was gonna say.
I'm begging. I'm at loss for words.
So actually, we'll just go over instead of just base opinions. Let's just talk about some of the things about it. So,
I mean, it's a good movie.
It's the catalyst for everything.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
yeah. That's all I can say. It's just good. I mean, but not my favorite out of those.
Yeah, I mean, probably the worst thing about it is just, and it's nothing that you can take, like, there's nothing you can do about it, but, like, the fight scene between Vader and Obi-Wan.
I was going to say that.
It's bad, but, I mean, what are you going to do?
Well,
I mean,
at the time, it was really cool because nobody had ever seen it
Is that
before.
78 or 4?
77.
77. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. No one had ever seen it before, so yeah, it was cool then. But now when we look back, especially at that episode 3 choreographed fight, and then we go back and
Exactly.
watch them, and so like you remember it differently because you're like, oh, it was this badass scene. But they're literally like, there's this part where like Obi-Wan is like fucking flailing at him, like, and he's not even hitting him. He's just like,
Yeah.
it's the funniest looking thing.
And I mean, to the acting thing that we were talking about, obviously it's aged because it's, whatever.
It hasn't
But, like,
aged the best, like,
acting wise, it hasn't aged the best for sure.
Yeah, I would say, like, for, like, some of the limits that they had, like, technically wise, like, you can only do so much, like,
Ooh,
in the late 70s, but
Palpatine does look like shit. I forgot about that. The if you looked at the unedited, like,
I haven't watched like the original ones because like all the ones like we watched, I'm pretty sure like all the ones like that are on Disney Plus or
they've been
something.
edited,
Are,
like,
can you pull that up?
I might be able to. I don't think Palpatine popped up in the first Star Wars. I think he popped up in Empire.
Not physically. There's a
No,
little,
yes, I know, but
like a
I think
hologram?
that hologram is Empire. I don't think he popped up in the original Star Wars. I think that was Empire Strikes Back.
I don't distinctly remember like
I know what you're talking about, though. And yes,
whichever
he does
that
look,
one is.
he looks like fucking
oh,
shit.
Dude, it's Jabba too. Like, I mean, all those again, like we said, timed, aged.
Yeah,
but like,
I mean, but for the time they came out, it was great.
Oh, yeah,
Episode
for sure.
4, like it's the start of it. You introduce to your characters. It's a great story. Like just from like and like Trevor said earlier, like it can just stand alone as a good movie. Like it has like your hero who starts from it's the rags to riches kind of thing. Like Luke starts as a nobody and then through happenstance he gets pulled into some.
What the fuck is this? Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that's bad.
oh, it's bad.
But Luke gets pulled into some,
Yeah, 1980.
intergalactic.
So that's Empire Strikes. Yeah, that's
Oh,
when he
okay.
first popped up.
He gets pulled into an intergalactic war he doesn't want a part of, and he becomes the hero. He's the unlikely hero. It's a basic story, but it's pulled off great.
damn, hold up. So 77 to 82 is how long that took.
I think Empire was 80.
Yeah, so 77 was original Star Wars, Empire was 80, 83 was Return of the
Oh,
Jedi.
okay. I was gonna say, damn, that's a long time frame between that.
Yeah.
But
But for I mean,
go ahead.
That's fine, but
Let's keep going. We're time's
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
away from
Anyway,
us.
yeah, original Star Wars. I loved it. I loved it a lot when I watched it. It's missing some of the pivotal things. Like you don't get to see Luke like really be a badass or anything like that. There's actually some moments in it where he's kind of being a whiny bitch about things that like I didn't realize until I had rewatched them later. I'm like, oh yeah, he's kind of whiny about some of this shit.
Yeah, whenever like Lars is like he's like, you need to go clean the droids, but I wanted to go play blah 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 with my friends. Blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah.
there's some parts where he does that shit too. But
It's necessary to his
it runs in the
character,
family.
I guess so, yeah. But for the most part, I think it's a pretty solid movie. I liked it a lot when I had watched it. Yeah, like I said, it doesn't have some of the more grandiose moments of the later ones, like episode 5, the one right after. I think that one's a lot better.
Let's just go into that one.
Yeah, so let's just go ahead and immediately segue. I'll just go ahead and start with that. Episode 5 is probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite, Star Wars movie of all time. I fucking love. I'm a big fan of subverting expectations, but in the correct way. And I think that this was probably one of the first times that people in the general audience had really seen that, because it was like, you'd seen the first one, the good guys win. So then you see the second one, it's like, all right, the good guys are clearly going to win, and they fucking don't. Like, the Empire wins that one. Luke gets his fucking hand cut off. Like, it's
Han's frozen.
Yeah, like it literally looks gloomy as fuck for the heroes, and that like and that's something that I remember as a kid did not expect at all. Like, what the fuck? Like, I'm 10 years old watching this. I'm like, what the fuck? The bad guy, and I loved that because it was just like so against the norm, but it was really good. Like, you got to see that's the first time you get to see like a decently choreographed like lightsaber fight, and like Luke is like ruthless in it. Like, you can feel the anger and something like the anger that he's like trying to repress in those scenes when he's fucking like just like going at Vader, trying to cut his head off basically.
And like the overall story that's necessary to like learning about a Jedi is that you don't use anger, and that's why he lost, because he went in like not, and it's like another thing like Yoda said when they're on Dagobah, he's like, you're not ready, you need more training, and he's like, I have to go, I have to do it, and he goes on his, he follows his emotions rather than what he's supposed to do. So it plays into that overarching theme more.
Yeah.
So like it's good in that aspect too.
Yeah, no, I like this movie a lot. I think it's really good. It's one of my favorite Star Wars of all time. For the longest time, it was my favorite Star Wars of all time. So yeah, I love this movie.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, like,
Yep.
I mean, yeah. So with Empire Strikes Back, it's my second favorite. It's a really close tie with Return of the Jedi and Empire. It's just, I mean, head to head. Like, every time I think, oh, I like this one more. It's just hard. But yeah, I mean, it's just really solid. I mean, it's a good story, like you said. Like, it's like, oh, they don't really win. Like, that's pretty crazy. Luke is going ham on the lightsaber. I definitely think my favorite part of it is Han just being like, or when Leia was just like, Han, I love you. And he's just like, I know. I just wanted to hear air horns.
Yeah, well, like, you know that was actually an improvised scene.
Of course it was.
Yeah, like,
of course it was.
All good scenes are almost improvised.
Yeah, because they wanted him to say I love you too, and he's like, I don't think Han would say that. I'm going to say this instead.
Well, that kind of harkens back to like the love plot of the prequels where like it fails, but like that's believable, like, because I believe Han's character, and like I'm sold on who he is, and that's like a believable line like he would say. But like versus like Padme and Anakin, I'm just like
and the fucking dialogue,
I just don't buy into it.
The dialogue, I mean, even through what is the fourth one called specifically?
A New Hope.
A New Hope. The dialogue between Han and Leia's there, but like it's so fucking good in Empire, and it's just like fucking nerf herder, and he's just like,
I can't remember exactly what it says. Scruffy headed nerf herder.
Yeah.
Dude, it's so good.
Yeah.
Like, it's
well,
so,
I mean, not to
snow...
mention the fucking introduction of Boba Fett. I mean,
yeah, that's one of the most iconic characters.
Fucking, the movie's great.
And
it's a great movie.
And probably my favorite like planet and like scene. I love Hoth. Like anytime,
the battle is so fucking good.
Yeah, like anytime, like when I would play, and we can talk about this. I don't want to get into it, but like the Battlefront games.
Oh,
like,
I always loved playing
fucking
that.
Loved Hoth. Like Hoth was so cool. The walkers are badass. Like the whole scene is badass. Like it's really great.
I agree.
Like it's a perfect way to start off your movie with like this high intense like action, and like it's really like high stakes like moment, like them trying to get all the rebel transports are away. The rebel transports are away.
An enemy is captured a command post. I just hear that in my subconscious.
But it's great. It's arguably like how like if you're in a trilogy, it's like one of the like the skeletons of like how you want your second movie to be in your trilogy.
I was gonna say that it's the rare times where a sequel is better than the original, and
it does it right. Like that.
Yeah,
like if your sole purpose is to make a trilogy, like if every movie like the good guy wins at the end, like what do you think is going to happen in the third one?
You expect
like
it.
Yeah, exactly. It's predictable. Like you said, it subverts expectations. Like you watch the first one, you're like, all right, everybody wins. You're like getting hyped up like at the end scene, like everyone's getting their medals in the throne room, and you're like, badass. You get in the second one, you're like, all right, we're going to see more badass things, and it's going to end like that too, and then it subverts your expectations.
Also, like, Darth Vader just fucking going, blocking
the lightsaber.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hard, bro.
I don't want to like derail too far, but that was part of the reason I loved Infinity War when it came out. Like we had watched this entire slew of Marvel movies.
Me too. That's my favorite Marvel.
The good guys win. The good guys win. Oh, hey, guess what? The good guys win. And then Infinity War comes out, and you're like, well, I wonder what's going to happen. And fucking Thanos snaps everyone out of existence.
I like that too.
And it's like,
I
I remember because I had been sitting in the theater. I'm like, this movie's gone on for a long time. I think he's going to win. And he wins. And I'm like, holy fuck. I was just like, no way.
We could talk about that a long time too.
Yeah, but either way,
I
that's
agree with
one of
you.
the main reasons that I like the Empire Strikes Back so much is because when you subvert expectations, but you do it in the right way, it's genius.
You don't throw something just out of left field and everyone's like, what the fuck is this?
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, oh wow, what the fuck? Like I didn't see that coming. That's cool. Like it's what you said. It does it in the right way.
Yeah.
So
all right.
nothing else can be said. It's
move
awesome.
on. Next
Return
one.
of the
Jedi.
Jedi. So I'll start with a con, but it's so good that it's so bad that it's good. The whole bar scene in Jabba's place, the singing, that you know what I'm talking about.
That's only in the special editions.
Oh, is it really?
I'm pretty sure. Like
He added it later. I mean, that wasn't originally there, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's been there for a while though. So most people our age would have seen that as their first.
I'm just saying, like
Yeah.
it's not how it originally was because they added like we'll go back to this real quick and like New Hope, like they have Jabba, like his like super like good like CGI, like where he's, like,
they
in,
edited that. Yeah,
like where he's like by like Han and like the Millennium Falcon before they leave the Mos Eisley spaceport. Like those things added in, I think it takes away from it, and I think that's one thing like that you mean in Jedi, like it just kind of takes you out of it a little bit.
yeah.
The singing and
It's one of
everything.
one of those things where it's like why, but it's like it's so funny.
Well,
Yeah.
like okay,
like
well,
the close up of like the alien's lips, like on
Yeah.
the camera.
well here's one that he comes back and
That's
he
pretty
adds at the end of this one is like he takes out the eyebrows on Darth Vader.
What?
That's literally one of his edits that he does is that in the original trilogy at the very end when Vader takes off his helmet and he's talking to Luke, he has like eyebrows.
Were they really bushy or something?
Well, I mean, yeah, they were.
Is it like Anthony Davis level?
I don't understand the reference.
Caterpillar ass eyebrows.
But I mean,
That's
they
the
were,
basketball player that has like
oh.
the unibrow.
Well, I mean, they were pretty big, bushy eyebrows, but I think people pointed out to him, like, hey, if you're burned alive, you don't have eyebrows. So he literally, one of the things that he changed in his special editions was he went and he took out
That's so petty.
that guy's fucking eyebrows. I'm not even fucking kidding. Hang
Smart.
on.
I mean,
But
Fix
either,
it.
yeah, I mean that's a con that honestly, I think the movie as a whole is almost perfect. Return of the Jedi, that's a con out of it, but I think it's so bad that it's good. But yeah, I gotta see with. Oh yeah, he does have eyebrows.
Here it is. Yeah, literally, that's the edit.
Damn.
I don't think I've seen that version. I think I've only seen the remaster.
I watched like a video pointing out like all of his pointless changes that he made, and this was one of the most pointless ones. Was the eyebrows.
Look at the fucking curve of his head, bro. Look at that divot in his fucking head.
Hey, you wear a helmet for
That
30
man looks like
years.
that in real life, though. Well, besides the
Hey, some
burns.
people have a lumpy ass head, man.
Hey, whatever, I do too. But like, still, like,
That's funny.
damn. But anyway,
That's fucking funny.
Return of the Jedi. It's what I usually refer back to as my top favorite, depending on the day. But like, Return of the Jedi is one of my favorites. The Ewoks are great. The whole battle during that time was great. The whole you see Luke in his like final form. I get
He's
kind
not
of
even my final form.
Super Saiyan 4 Luke Skywalker.
like he's just fucking hard as fuck the entire.
Yeah.
All black. Fuck, dude. Like it's just a hard ass look.
Well, I mean, even still, like like we said in Empire, like you can feel the anger that he's fucking got. Like he fucking goes ham on
He
the
goes-
lightsaber. Like
But
and
it was
then when
dumb
you
hard.
and then when you see him at the start, like you can just tell, like
Oh, he
like,
knows.
from his
He knows.
from his demeanor, like when he goes to Jabba's palace, like he has really like
he's
honed
grown.
in.
He knows what he's
Yep.
doing. Like, but the thing that I like the most is that like if you've never seen that movie before and you watch that ending scene, there's like a slight little thing and you're like, oh shit, is he gonna like actually join the whatever? Because like I remember Lucas or somebody had like said that he actually kind of wanted him to like turn to the dark side, but then he like tossed that idea because that would be like too radical. But like I remember watching it, like man, he's going fucking nuts. You can feel that anger in there. Like he might actually like not. You know,
Right.
turn out to be the good dude, or you can at least kind of get that feeling of it. Like, he's not going to do it, but, like, you can kind of feel it, though.
Yeah, there's
sure.
a moment where you're like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, and, like, I like that a lot. I like that a lot about this movie.
Well, I guess there's more space there's more space battles in Empire, which are really good. But everything about Empire for me is so good. It's just,
Or Jedi.
or I'm sorry, Return of the Jedi. My bad. Everything in Return of the Jedi is just great. It's like incredible how they made back to back movies that were so fucking good. Like, I remember when my dad was showing me Empire Strikes Back, like pretty much the old movies. I was like, the fourth one's okay, but like the fifth and sixth one, I'm like, dude, these movies are perfect. Like, these movies are great.
So I'll be honest. This one is my least favorite of all of the.
Took the words out of my mouth. I was gonna say this one's probably my least like of the originals.
Yeah,
Go ahead. We probably have similar.
But I
reasons
still,
why.
but don't get me wrong. Just because I say that, I still love this movie. Like,
not bad in any way.
No. I think this movie is great.
It's your least favorite out of the best.
Yeah, it's just my least favorite of the best one. But yeah, I still love it. There's so many things I like about it. I mean, even when I say that, I can't really give like a true justification for it. I feel like there are some things that happen that are a little weird, but
The biggest thing for me is the Ewoks. I don't like the Ewoks. They're
Yeah.
just it's too much of like a side story. Like, they're like too cutesy. Like, and I just don't believe that, like, because like the whole time, like, you're thinking like the Imperials and the Stormtroopers are like badasses, and like you can't really like stand up to them. But these little fucking fur balls with their spears
Murdering
and logs and shit are just like fucking up the walkers and everything.
Yeah, I think my least favorite thing about this movie is the rehashing of the Death Star.
Yeah,
I'm not a big fan of that. So like, I know some of the movies later on have done that, but I feel like they've only done that because the sixth one did it. So like, and I know, back then they didn't have the prequels to, have like a canon story, but like, in episode 3 at the very end, they're building the thing and it fucking takes 20 years to get that thing done. And then in the last episode, it takes 3 to get it done instead of 20.
It was only partially built in episode 6. It wasn't completely finished. It wasn't fully operational, but still,
it was
pretty much done.
I wasn't a big fan of it. I feel like the storyline could have revolved around something just as sinister and it not be a Death Star. So I didn't really like that rehashing, but like I said, I still love this movie in general. Like, I don't really have a whole lot of complaints about it.
The final scenes, like between like the confrontation between Palpatine. Well, you don't know he's Palpatine, Sidious, and Vader and Luke is just great. Like, it's just a good dynamic between the 3 characters.
Also, very sexual if you put a dirty spin on it. Like, if you ever sit there and listen to the fucking to Sidious talk, he's like, "Strike me down with your anger. Yes, let the hate flow through you. Do it. Do it."
Is that what he said?
Do it. Do it. Do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good though.
Yep.
For sure.
Yeah, no arguments here. All right, episode 7.
Or do we want to get into Rogue One?
I'm gonna grab me a Coke real quick. Y'all talk about Rogue One.
I want to hear your opinion on Rogue One because I know you don't really like it all that much.
We can start off.
It's 100% filler.
So we can. Well, yes. Okay. So yeah. Well, I guess we'll start with that point. It's a filler movie for sure. Because it's in between 4 and 5. No, I'm sorry, 3 and 4. I liked it a lot though. I haven't seen it since it came out. I've only watched it once, so I'm sure maybe my opinion would change a little bit if I watched it for a second time. But I remember when it came out, I liked it better than episode 7, for sure. To me, it didn't really bother me because I know a complaint was there wasn't really like a whole lot of Jedi action in it and whatnot. But that didn't bother me at all. Like I liked it. I thought the scene with fucking Darth Vader going ham and murdering everyone was awesome, and it felt right. It was paid off, and then that nice transition between 3 and 4, where it's like literally minutes before. I thought that was really cool.
When they're like, "What is this?" It's hope.
Yeah, and then boom, and then go off, and then that the very
literal start of A New Hope.
Yeah. So even though it was filler, I feel like it was good filler.
Yes, it was.
I don't think it was like this. Like, for instance, let's use Solo as an example here. I don't feel like it was like Solo because that was like a movie of something that honestly, we didn't need to know Han Solo's backstory.
It was unnecessary filler.
Yeah.
Whereas like Rogue One, it's not entirely necessary.
No,
we didn't need to know it, but I think that it's done right. Like, I think it's interesting because like it's something that I didn't particularly think about, like how they got like the rebel plans or whatever for the Death Star. But if you're a big fan of the series, like you might think like, well, did they get it?
What? So like I said, I'll agree with him completely. This is not a movie that we needed. It's not. Like, we did not need to know how they got those plans. So like I'm in agreement with him there. However, something else that I like a lot about this movie is that they do choose to tell the story for whatever reason, and once again, they don't end it with like the stereotypical happy ending. Everyone fucking dies.
That was pretty bleak.
And I like that a lot because
I like the entire scene on Scarif.
Because like it doesn't try to do that bullshit thing where it's like, where did all these like important characters go? Like, why is it never explained later on? Like, why are they never mentioned? It's because they all fucking got murked at the end. That's why. And it's like, I like that decision a lot because it immediately eradicates any of the plot holes that it might create later on, and all the whiny Star Wars fandom.
Standalone movies or whatever. Yeah.
So I thought that was a really good decision. And once again, I'm a fan of bleaker endings because they aren't the fucking, oh, this is super happy. Like, it was happy as in the sense they got the plans and like at the end, like, oh, it's hope. But it wasn't for all of our main heroes that we watched the whole time dying at the end. Like, I like that. I really like that. I like that a lot.
I'll say, like, the first 2 acts, like, it's a lot of, like, fan service and callbacks. Like, when they're on, I don't remember the planet, but the one where, I can't remember.
Cantina's at?
Yeah, it's not Mos Eisley. It's not Tatooine, but like the
planet. I know what
where
you're talking. Yeah.
And they like run into like the guys like that are in episode 4, where he's like, "I don't like you either." Like, it's the same guys. Like, it's like, yeah, that's fan service. It can get a little heavy on that, but I think it's all made up in the 3rd act whenever they actually get to Scarif. And there's some characters that, like, you don't care about, like Forrest Whitaker's character. I didn't care about.
No, me either.
Saul Guerrero.
I really liked. In this movie, what was it, Scarif, that they eradicated with the fucking laser? Like, they just completely nuked the city.
That was the one that was the final planet where the base was.
Well, yes,
that's Scarif.
Well, not the ending one, but the one before that, because they did nuke like another city that they like wiped everything. That
Saul Guerrero was on.
I think so.
That's where they were going to get the.
Yeah, it was like a desert planet or something. Yes. Yeah. I thought that scene was fucking cool.
Yeah, that was cool. Like, the destruction of that planet.
Yeah, the ending scene, cool. I thought, once again, nuke the fucking planet, everyone dies. Thought that was amazing.
Yeah, I think it all makes up for it in the 3rd act. Like, I loved just the entire, like, battle scenes. Like, the one where the guy who's, like, I don't think he was blind, but he's, like, walking. Yeah. He's like, I am one with the Force. The Force is with me. I am one with the Force. What really would have sold me on that is, like, at the end of his stick, like, if a saber would have came out, I would have nutted in my seat. Like, I was sitting there, I was waiting for it. I'm like, there's a saber coming out of there. There's a saber coming out of there, and it didn't. But it was still good. Like, I liked most of our main cast of characters. I could buy into it, and I loved the fight scene and the space battle where they had the Hammerhead Corvette that, like, because they couldn't, like, get their ships in because they had, like, some kind of like ship that had like the big shield like that stopped people from getting into it, and they're like, we can't destroy it, and they're just like, fucking ram it. And that's the first time I've seen that. And they just like get like the ship and they just like and they just like plow into it. I was like, that's badass. I'm like, that's so really cool.
So one thing that I especially like about this movie, from what like I said, it's been like 2 years since I've seen it, is unlike the other Star Wars movie, I think the comedy works really well in this movie. Because I remember
it's not beating you over the head with
that one droid, the one I can't remember. He's played by some dude that I'm.
It's the
like,
guy
really
from
familiar.
Firefly.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Either way, yeah.
Not the main guy from Firefly, but he's in Firefly.
Yeah. And he I can't remember, but he that droid was fucking.
Yeah, he was
funny.
great.
I straight up busted out laughing.
He's my favorite droid.
Like, I haven't done that in any Star Wars movie, but in that one, I straight up busted out laughing at some of the shit that droid said. I thought it was hilarious. But yeah, what did you think, Harrison?
Like I said, it was just really filler. But I will say, one of my favorite characters was that blind guy. Mm-hmm. I've always
K2SO is the droid's name, and it's Alan Tudyk.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He's in Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've always like thought about a cool, like, if I ever wanted like my own kind of character, like just kind of if I wrote down a character bio and just had him in there, like a blind like a Daredevil kind of aspect character where he's blind but a Jedi.
That's cool.
It'd be super dope. Like, he wears like, obviously fuck Star Trek. But like, if you're...
We just pissed off half of our 10 fan base.
Good, fuck them.
Fuck you 5 people.
Anyway, but like, you know, take the whole like goggles thing that guy wore, where it was like the glasses. You know what I'm talking about? that guy
Yeah,
wore.
yeah.
So like nothing like that, kind of like that, where he has to use the Force
to see.
Mm-hmm. Like kind of a character. I always thought it'd be cool to have a blind Jedi. Moral of the story.
Good concept, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good concept, and I always thought it was really cool. And he was definitely the coolest character in my opinion. Aside from that, kind of like Solo, the last 10 minutes, 15 minutes of it is just pure adrenaline, and I was like, damn. Like I was like, this movie's. I was like, when. Like I knew when this movie was kind of taking place, and then at the very end, you're like, oh,
the stakes feel real.
Oh,
and like you can kind of like really get like
and
a
then
grip on
Darth Vader coming in and just fucking shit up.
God,
Oh
that
my
was so
God,
fucking
dude. I
cool.
was like,
I was hyped
the whole time, bro. Just
Literally,
like, it was so
all those
sick.
people
Like,
reacting exactly how you would if you got thrown in a room with like a dark room
They're
with
just
Darth
like-
Vader. Oh my fucking god! Like they're fucking running away. Like please.
I
Don't
remember
hurt me.
watching. I was like, wait, those look like, and I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
I was like, let's go.
Well, that's done right too, because they could have really went like over the top with it and like had them like mow down like tens of like rebel fighters for like 10 minutes, but it was only like maybe like a minute long scene,
And
but
that
it was
scene-
like
another-
it was just enough. It was the right amount
Yeah.
The CGI they did for the general and Leia
for
Yeah.
was fucking
Tarkin.
great.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard this, but they had original. For some reason, they had some casting of that general's face for like a mask or something. I don't know what it was, like from way back when he was the age of himself in the old movies, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they used it for CGI, and they just did like what they did with the newer movies, where they pictured.
Yeah.
I'm assuming we've all seen it. So where they put Leia's face on that new actor, they did the same thing, but they had like perfect casting of his face. Like they had
it's just
exact.
it's just
casting.
really neat to see like how far we have come with
I-
technology.
It
That's
was
great.
so fucking good. Like,
Yeah.
I was
almost
It
indistinguishable.
was really
Exactly.
There were some moments where like you could tell he looks a little off, but
barely.
For
it
the
was,
most part,
barely.
yeah, no,
it's good.
like I'm
it's
saying,
awesome.
like it was. I've never seen CGI that impressive before. That was
I agree.
really good.
They literally, like, the Leia one was really impressive. Like, if
Yeah.
there was one that was really impressive because she was, like, really quick, like, she was just kind of shown, boom, whatever. Because I think the more screen time you have with it, you'll pick at it.
It loses.
Well,
its
Exactly.
that's exactly what I was
You'll
saying about
pick at
Tarkin.
it. You'll be like,
Yeah.
I can see this little, like, blur or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
It's not perfect, but, like, Leia's screen time.
It was really impactful too, because it like she died relatively close to the release of that movie, and like when you did
Yeah.
see her, like it wasn't for very long, but like you know, like it's not really her, but it's just like
well, then that's something else. Like you're like when you're seeing that movie for the first time, you're not expecting that at all. Like you're not expect because that's one of the things that the newer movies have to avoid. Like even the prequels had to avoid was that putting your older, like the actors are 30 years plus aged, and that's like a big thing. And then to all of a sudden see, oh my fucking god, that's Princess Leia. She looks 20 again.
exactly kind of like how they did El Camino, like with what's his name.
Yeah,
Like they butchered it so bad. Like, and it was
oh my god, the dude that played Todd, Jesse,
like
oh Jesus,
they could have done the
Christ.
same thing,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like no. I mean, obviously it'd be a lot of
Well,
work.
they could have asked him to just work out. That would
That
that
too,
would have
but,
been
like,
the best
I
thing.
haven't seen it, but
It's
Basically,
bad.
like the difference is he was just skinny, and basically what they did was like, oh, just be yourself. You don't lose weight.
The movie was good, but like Todd is fat now, and it's like, but it's supposed to be before.
It's pretty
whatever,
character
so it's
breaking.
like it doesn't make any sense. Yeah, it's dumb. But yeah, no, I really liked Rogue One. I mean, like you said, it is filler, but I feel like it's good filler. It's filler I never asked for, but I don't mind it at all being in the Star Wars universe. I like
think
it a
it's
lot.
I think it's worth it for the last 15 minutes.
Yeah, the climax of that movie is
Oh,
fucking nuts.
it's nasty.
all right. Let's move on to episode 7. Or
Wait,
no, I'm
what?
sorry. Let's
Or
move on to
Solo?
Solo.
yeah,
Solo
let's,
instead.
let's briefly talk about Solo.
I kind of have the same opinion about Solo. Last 15 minutes, not even 15 minutes, like the last 10 minutes, maybe, is like what you need to watch. Because Solo was like one of those movies where it was like, I can see potential. And basically they fucked themselves with the rest of the movie before that. Because it was like, I really wanted something more special with how we met Chewbacca. I wanted to see more than a handful of Wookiees that are imprisoned. Like you kind of, I mean, you see them in episode 3. You know, you see the whole fucking tribe, or I guess
On Kashyyyk.
yeah,
That's
you
the
see
Wookiee
that, which
homeworld.
is fair, but like, you just, you know, if you know Star Wars, there's a special connection with fucking Chewbacca and Han. So it's like you imagine something more special than that, which it was like kind of fun, you know, like, but it was just, it felt kind of like
That's literally how I feel about the entire movie. It was just like,
Yeah.
It was a story I didn't ask for.
But if you, but here's the thing with me. So like Solo, if they would have made a whole lot better of a movie from the last 10 minutes and before, you would have had an amazing sequel. Because if you think about it, so like you have the young Han and how he became a smuggler, going into meeting Jabba the Hutt, possibly young Boba Fett. Darth fucking Maul was introduced. I was like, he's finally fucking canon with his crazy fucking
So
robotic
I haven't
legs.
finished the Clone Wars, so I don't know how it concludes, but I feel like that was just kind of cheesy at the end. Like it was just like we need like kind of a shock like reveal at the end. I was like,
Yeah, well,
what is
in the
he
canon,
doing
he does.
here?
He definitely in the Clone Wars. He comes back.
Well, right,
and
I
he's
know
not
that,
he's
but
not
I-
killed until like Rebels or whatever that is. When Obi-Wan's like older, he confronts Obi-Wan on Tatooine, and Obi-Wan fucking
might
murks
see
him.
that on the new Kenobi series.
I can't wait for that either.
Is that real? Is that happening?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah.
Ian McGregor is playing him too.
Oh, that's dope.
It's
100%.
100%.
Wow, that's awesome. So I'm gonna say I disagree with you in the realm of like the last 10 minutes being the best. I think the thing that really took me out of this movie was the climax of it, because I mean
I know where this is going.
I wasn't a big fan of the movie throughout, but like I was still like held on pretty well to it. It did some dumb shit, but the ending. I didn't mind bringing Darth Maul back. That didn't bother me at all. Matter of fact, I kind of thought that was cool. But the biggest problem I have was the structure went like this. It was like, okay, hey, this is happening, backstab.
Oh yeah.
And then it was like backstab again, and it was like just kidding, backstab. And then it was like, wait, no, hang on, there's one more. I'm just sorry, there's 2 more backstabs. And then
I'm not including that when I say last 10 minutes. I don't know. I'm sorry if that.
I mean,
does
just like
include,
from like an action like standpoint.
So let me rephrase what I meant. So like everything from introducing Darth Maul on, basically.
I thought
That might be like even 5 minutes. But
I've only seen it one time. I just saw it the one time.
Yeah,
in
I saw it.
theaters,
Yeah, same.
So
that backstabbing part was a little bit much.
I don't
It was.
remember much after that. I thought that might have been like one of the closing scenes. Was the
well,
Darth
yeah,
Maul reveal.
what you're talking about,
But I
yeah,
don't
you're
know.
right. Maybe that might be like the last 5 minutes, but I remember the very ending of that movie was basically like, oh, she's on my side. Just kidding, she's not. No, just kidding. Yes, she is. Never mind. No, she's not. And I'm like, okay, hang on. You can do like 2 of these, and that's fine,
After
but you
a while,
can't do
it
5.
It loses its.
Yeah,
It's like that
you-
scene in The Office where they're like,
I get you.
"Oh yeah, you hate The Office."
Yeah, I don't
Fuck
like-
you, by the way.
Yeah, sorry. I hate
yeah,
the Office guys. I don't know what to tell you.
The biggest thing for me is that what appeals to Han Solo's characters, like when he makes like all these references, he's like, yeah, Chewie was like back this time on the so and so planet. Like you don't know what it is, and it just gives like some kind of mystique to his character. Like you don't know like all of his like doings as like a smuggler or anything. It's like left up to your own imagination. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to see like how like I think it's stupid how he got his name. It's like, what's your name?
Yeah.
Han. Last name? Solo. I was like, that's stupid.
I literally so here was the thing that made me really upset about watching that scene and almost made me like bust out laughing was that like I saw that in a tweet and they were like, well, they're like, oh, what happens in the new Star Wars movie? So I thought they were like fucking around because it was like when it just came out and they were like, oh, what's your name? Han. It's like whatever, Solo, and then that happens. I'm like. And so I laughed at it. I was like, that's fucking, that's dumb. But then it like, I remember sitting there in the theater and it like actually happened. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
I just think
Like there's no, what the fuck?
I think it was just a cash grab. Like people are
100%.
gonna go see a Star Wars movie if you release it, but everyone wants like a story to be told. But is it the story that we particularly needed? I don't think so.
Do we need it, or should we or should we not?
Yeah.
Kind of a thing.
So like, here's the thing. I didn't hate this movie. I'm lukewarm on this movie. I could watch it again and be fine with it. Like I don't hate it by any means. It's dumb and it does dumb shit, but like there's no point when I watch this movie that I have like I want to walk out moment like I did with some of these newer ones. I thought it was like meh.
It was
I
fine.
thought it was okay.
It was fine.
Yeah,
I'd watch it again. Is it one of my favorites? Definitely not. Is it like the worst thing I've seen? No, it's okay.
That definitely could have gone straight to Disney Plus.
Yeah, it's
yeah,
okay.
yeah. That's a good example of it. It's like,
okay.
okay, I'd watch it, but it's like it's not the best thing in the world.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So like that, yeah, that's kind of where I settled
It's
on
okay.
it. All right, we're back with a new glass of whiskey to talk about the new trilogy. Okay,
The whiskey
so
is needed.
Yeah, the whiskey's needed. All right, so we'll start with episode 7, which I feel like we've already agreed on that we don't hate. So Harrison, why don't you go ahead and give your base opinion?
So something that I said so with episode 7 coming out, I remember when the trailer popped open and I was like, yo. First thing I noticed, cinematography was fucking on point. Cinematography. Like, yeah, I guess you could just call it cinematography.
Yeah, that's probably right.
Because, like, I know that kind of is like, well, what was really filmed and what wasn't CGI. Blah, blah, blah. Great, beautiful. Definitely the best part. I think, J.J. Abrams was the right guy to choose. I'm not a huge fan of Star Trek, but they looked good. Don't get me wrong, Star Trek looked great.
I'm not into Star Trek either. I'll do this real quick, but from what I've watched, like his the first couple, the last maybe just the first one or maybe the first second, the one that had what's his fucking name?
Chris Pine?
Leonard Nimoy?
No.
God damn it! What the
No,
fuck is his name?
he was the villain.
Xavier? Oh no.
Oh, was it Eric Banner? Is that his name?
No, fuck. Just go.
Not
I'm
Eric.
Look it up
God
now.
damn it! I can't remember.
But
his name.
they weren't bad. They're pretty
Yeah.
good.
JJ definitely, I could already tell. I'm like, this guy's a good pick for a director.
Benedict
And
Cumberbatch.
was he a
That's his
villain?
name. Yeah, he was.
In what part of Star Trek?
Let me see it.
I don't
Like the
remember
TV show Star Trek?
No, the movies.
movie.
Yeah, he was
Was
Khan.
he?
He was Khan.
I don't remember
Star
that.
Trek
Well,
Into
I
Darkness.
haven't seen it, but yeah.
That was good. I really liked that movie. But
Huh. Well, anyway, I could already tell the cinematography from the trailer. I was like, I like this, and I'm like, I think he's. Before I even judged the directing and the acting and the script, I'm like, the cinematography is fucking great. Like to start off when they're in the ship and they're like the lights are flickering with the fucking stormtroopers. I'm like, I feel like they're going into D-Day. Like this is dope.
Yeah.
Like really fucking cool.
Well, I'll go ahead and say that
Rogue One was kind of like that.
Yeah,
too.
I'll go ahead and say
Yeah.
that all of these new movies, I don't have any flaws with.
They're beautiful.
they're
They
great
look
to
they look
at.
amazing.
Yes.
They look fucking great. Every single one of them, as much as I don't like some of the later ones, they look fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yes.
They look great.
I'll agree with that.
So, yeah. So with that in mind,
I'll pick that up. Right?
go for it, man. Yeah, that's great. I said from the beginning, and I told Lainey this because me and Lainey had just started talking / dating when this came out, and I told my dad this. I was like, "Holy fuck, they're bringing back Star Wars!" And I was like, "We gotta fucking see it." And I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." And I was like, I can already tell you, I was like, this is gonna be good no matter what because they're bringing it back, and like we talked about with episode 1, if they would have started with episode 1, people wouldn't have watched it. And I think, obviously, George had a say technically, but they learned their lesson. And I think there's
There's
movie,
some gray area there with the input that George had on these newer
sure,
trilogies.
for sure. But I was like, cool. So these are people I have never seen. This is a new story. Technically, well, new character development, and I was like, I'm glad to see new stuff because I'm like, we
were kind of bogged down at that point.
exactly. We've seen what we've needed to see about
what came out first, Rogue One or Rogue One came after
7, and then it was Rogue One, which was
Okay.
part of the reason it gave me such hope for the new trilogy was because it started off with 2 pretty solid movies.
Okay.
So yeah,
So I was like, cool. And then when I finally saw the movie, I was like, this is set up great.
Did you see it with us when we all saw it in the theater?
No, I didn't get to see it with y'all.
well, technically Chandler didn't either. He got fucking pissed drunk and passed
I
out.
was gonna say
What was
that.
it, Four Loko?
Oh, I was. god hammered when I saw that movie.
But
Chandler passed out in the premiere.
You will let us into the movie skills. Did
yeah,
work.
I pulled a Jedi mind.
So
Yeah, tell the story.
Little bit of a context to this. So we all went to see this movie, and we were all so excited because and justifiably so. It was so they're bringing Star Wars back, and so I remember I bought. Everybody we binged all of the old movies, and I bought everybody lightsabers, and so we show up to the fucking theater, and like was it John that was fighting with you, or who was fighting? Yeah, John and Chandler are fucking fighting with these lightsabers like right outside of the theater, and like did you guys
do in the lobby?
And yeah, and in the lobby too. And I'm like, we're getting kicked out before we even get in this fucking movie.
And I was hammered drunk.
Chandler was so drunk. And so we get in there, and like this was one of the only movies that it was the first movie we had bought as a group of friends. Really nice seating for. Like it was like a dine-in theater, and the seats were nice and reclining because we were like, we're gonna fucking see Star Wars in style. And yeah, Chandler passed right the fuck out in the
yeah
in his little.
Well, it was kind of funny too. Like before, like we got so it came out like around Christmas time, and I was like, everyone wants to go see Star Wars. I was like, as a Christmas gift for like all of my friends, I was like, I'm just gonna buy everyone's movie tickets. So we bought like 15. I bought like 15 movie tickets for all of our friends, and it's like the dine-in one. So like, and I guess I didn't. There's probably like some fine print that I didn't see. Like you have to be like
21.
No, I think you had to be 18 to get into it. To like, because there's like,
yeah.
because there's like a call
that long ago?
Yeah, so it was
that came out 2015. Was it 15 or 16?
I think it was the December of 2015.
Damn,
yeah, it was.
That.
Holy shit! Yeah, because my buddy Zach from college came down and he saw it with us. Yeah. Shit, that was 2015.
Damn.
Yeah. So one of our friends' girlfriend at the time, she was 17. This is 5 years ago, and so
holy fuck,
like we're going up to get in, and they're like, we need everyone's like ID.
Shout out to Jazz.
Yeah, and so like everyone's like hand their ID, like everyone's 18 at the time. I think she was the youngest in the group, and they're like, you can't get in, like you don't have like the age requirement. And they're like our friend and his girlfriend were like, well, it's okay, we'll just sit out in the lobby, like y'all go enjoy your movie. And me, 4 locos deep, hammered drunk, I was like, no, like this isn't gonna fly. I was like, we're all seeing this movie or no one's seeing this movie. And so in hindsight, I was probably really like drunk, and they could tell, and they were just like, dude, fuck it, like just let these people like go see their movie.
The weird thing was that why on earth did she have to be? What was the weird? Why did she have to be 18 for that?
They served alcohol. That was the only reason.
But
I
don't know.
I assume that it's just like because there was a family that went before us, and they had like their kids with them, and they're like, everyone has to be like of age. I think it's just because you have the call button like on the side of your chair, and you just don't want someone like pressing the button, like just like calling someone like.
I ran into the situation that, in fact, it happened right before y'all had told me the story on Snapchat, because we went and saw, and it was Star Wars, and I went and saw it with my stepbrother, and that same thing happened, and my dad pulled this bullshit out, and he was like, "What? How come?" There was no how did he buy the ticket then? And he didn't buy the ticket, but like he pulled that on. He's like, how come he bought the ticket then? And they said nothing, and they're like, just go ahead.
Yeah, but like so they weren't gonna let her in, and I was hammered drunk. Like I think I stopped at like Taco Bell like halfway there because I was like drunk and demanded like someone like pull over and get me Taco Bell. You know, it's what someone that's drunk does.
A natural drunk thought.
Yes. Yeah. And like I think I was like walking in like the parking lot, and I had like half like a 5-layer burrito in my hand. I just fucking chunked that bitch to the fucking stratosphere, and like I'm just hammered. Like I'm so excited. Like it's like I'm so ready to see this movie, and like we get there, and then they're like, "Yeah, you can't go." And I was like, "I'm not letting like 2 of my friends not see this movie."
Right.
And everyone knows like I'm drunk, and like everyone's just kind of standing there with their thumb up their ass, like, "Oh, what are we gonna do?" And I was like, "Fuck this!" And I was just like sober, and I just like went up and like talked to him, like. Look, like I spent like a couple $100 on like these movie tickets. I'm like, we're gonna see this movie. I was like, or I want all of my money back like right now. And they're just like, well, we just gotta go over this. I'm like, look, no one's gonna call this, like no one's gonna abuse like the call button. I'm like, we're not gonna get food. I was like, no one's gonna order drinks or anything. I was like, we just want to see the movie. I was like, just let us go. And like pulled some Jedi mind tricks on them. They let us in, and like literally like as soon as they're like, all right, yeah, everyone can go. And it's like after that, like they like let us get through like the front like security thing. Like we get through, and then like when we're in the main lobby, I'm just like, all right, I'm drunk again. And then I get the lightsaber. That's when I start fighting John Noah in the lobby. Like, hey, you can't do that here. I'm like, oh, shit.
It's like they're right on this one. I can't do this. Yeah, no. But, yeah, anyway, so going back to episode 7. So,
good times.
I wish I would have been there.
This is another movie that kind
I
of
could
holds
remember
like a special place in my heart because of all of that. Like that was
Yeah.
such a good time, and to bring Star Wars back and to not be 10 years old and to go to a movie theater and get to watch
It's reliving your childhood
Yeah.
in a way. Like you get it.
Yeah.
That's how I felt.
Yeah, no, exactly.
We also, to
Except
add
I
a thing,
got to be drunk.
we started a tradition with our friends, and whether we all get to or not, because we're all busy on our schedules, it was fun. Like
Whenever the new Star Wars comes out, let's all try and get a group
Yeah, I
together
really
as
want
much
to.
as we can to
And,
go see the movie.
Like before, I attended one of the marathons he had, and it's funny. I had a weird, cool fucking moment where I had never seen like the real edited version of Return of the Jedi, and I was pissed because I was like, "What the fuck is Hayden Christensen doing?" as a
like
Force
when
Ghost.
it's Force Ghost at
Yeah,
the end.
and I was like, I've never seen this. Like, I've only seen the original.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, what? And then I went down this rabbit hole of editing that they did to it.
Yeah.
And I was that was a fun thing too. Like,
Yeah, no. So yeah. Once again, so I mean, maybe I view this one through once again rose-colored glasses, but I like this movie. I didn't really have too many problems with it. So like a lot of people bitch about the plots being really similar.
like a rehash.
Yeah,
like a
so
rehash of New Hope.
And so, and it was, I won't deny that. It basically was a New Hope, but for like a newer generation. And I feel like if you're going to start a new trilogy, that was a pretty safe way to play it. Because it's like, look, we're not straying too far from the old ones. We're not making any crazy fucking decisions that the Star Wars fandom is going to be like, what the fuck are you doing? But we're playing it safe. And I didn't have any problem with that. I liked the new characters. I liked the whole Finn arc. I liked a lot about this movie. There was some dumb shit. Like this movie wasn't perfect, but like I walked out of it and I was like, I liked it. I liked it a lot. Like I didn't have any issues with it. I thought, the whole idea of getting to meet up with Luke Skywalker, like the ending of that movie.
The ending was great.
I liked it a lot. Like, yeah, I like the
left
ending.
like so much up, like where he just like you finally get to see Luke. Like this is like everyone's waiting for. Like we got to see Han, we got to see Leia,
Yeah.
we got to see Chewie. We're like we got like we're sold on these new characters. We're just missing Luke, and then we see him like right at the end. We're like, fuck yeah! Like it was the capstone of what we all wanted.
I liked Starkiller Base. I fucking thought that those scenes where they were standing on the planet and they watched just the rain of red come down on them and blow up the planet. I thought that was so fucking cool. I thought even
An
though
interesting way to not use the Death Star
Yeah.
but still be a Death Star.
yeah, exactly. And then I thought the scene of where fucking Finn fighting Kylo Ren, like he's like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, but fuck
Ballsy
it.
as
Like
fuck.
I thought that was really cool. Maybe the idea that he's standing up against like this, this practical Sith Lord is kind of dumb, but like the fact that he was willing to stand his ground and like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. Like I thought that was a really cool creative decision. I really liked that.
It's kind of a core concept of Star Wars.
Yeah,
too.
exactly. It's like just being brave and doing what you got to do.
Having courage.
There was a lot about this movie that it really, when I left the theaters, it gave me hopes for this whole trilogy. I thought that this trilogy would end up being really good because I'll be honest with you, I like 7. I like 7 a lot.
I like 7 too.
I didn't really have too many things that when I watched it, because I've seen it like 2 or 3 times, and even rewatching it, there weren't really a whole lot of things that I was like, wow, that's so dumb, I don't want to watch the movie. Like every time I've watched it, I've liked it.
Yeah, so on the original couple viewings that I had, like I really liked it, like for the same reasons that you had, and rewatching it, I rewatched it just a couple of days ago. Like the only like real big gripes that I had with it was because of what happened later on in the trilogy. Yeah. But if I'm in the mindset that those movies didn't exist, like it stands alone fine. Like it introduces the characters fine. Like you can say that Rey is a Mary Sue, which I get. It's not as apparent in episode 7 as it is in the other ones where she can just magically do anything, but it's pretty believable in this one. Like everything that she does is like you can kind of get into the weeds where you're like, yeah, like she shouldn't be able to already do these things, but
Yeah.
it's believable.
But right,
for sure.
but like especially if you're going off of the premise that like, okay, we don't know who her parents are.
Right. There's a lot of mystery.
Yeah, exactly. There's so much mystery to her that you're like, okay, she's able to do these things, but there's a reason for it. It's not just like she can just do these things and this is why. Like, no, it's you get the feeling that something's coming. There's a reveal later that
it builds up. Like I think it does what it's supposed to do. Like it just builds up. Like we get the story, we get these characters, we get kind of a basis of who they are, we get an idea of who Finn is, we get an idea of who Poe is, we get an idea of who Rey is, we get introduced to the characters we already know, and it just builds on that. But it doesn't do it in like a crazy kind of over excessive way. I thought it did it just fine. It wasn't like super ballsy like in the things they did. It was just fine. Like they had a formula, they knew it would work, they stuck to it, and it worked fine. And there's nothing wrong with that.
I agree. I agree with that. Like I don't mind the rehashing because like even though they took some of the old plot elements, I feel like they did it in a newer and creative way that like I didn't feel like I was sitting there watching A New Hope again. I was like, I'm watching,
I'm watching a similar story with
exactly.
new characters and a kind of a different plot and different character arc, so it feels different enough
exactly
to where I can buy into it, to where I'm not like I'm watching the same movie but in 2015 and not 77.
So what do you think, Harrison?
I mean, pretty much like you said. I mean, it was set up great. The characters that were introduced were great. Poe was one of my favorite characters in 7. Rey, kind of like you said about the whole Mary Sue thing. Like I could already tell she was going to be kind of like a she was the badass. She was the Luke, which is fine. I have no problem with her being female and the main character. This will trail off into episode 9, but I had early signs that I knew she was a Palpatine, and it was and you can
have a Force vision.
Did I have a Force vision? Is that what you said? Well, what it was, and you can.
All right, this podcast is over. We're going to sleep now.
So, Lainey, you can ask Lainey this. So, like, whenever the trailer for episode 9 came out, it was confirmed for me that I knew she was. But, like, by watching the way she uses her lightsaber, I don't remember if I noticed it in 7 or 8. But I, for some reason, had the vibe. She was someone...
Just caught the wind.
Just kind of like had that feeling. Her, like, stabbing...
Was she making, like, the grunts, too?
No, but, like... Do it! Her whole, like... Obviously, for 7, it's too close to call because she's still learning that, like, she kind of is Force sensitive. But I'm like, that's pretty, like... There's, like, 2... rarities in, like, if you're talking about Star Wars as a whole, there's like 2 people that have rare techniques. The guy from The Force Unleashed, I forget his name.
I never played the game.
Do you remember his name?
I didn't play that either.
You know who the character is though, right?
Yeah, I know.
So you know how he holds his lightsabers like backwards? There's that guy, and then there's Palpatine, which is he always like he just fucking stabs. Like it's not like a boom, it's like just kind of like all over the fucking... If you watch, it's hard to explain. I'm also kind of drunk, but like...
we're all toasted right now. You're good, man.
I'm
drunk as fuck.
Deep as fuck into this bottle. But
I'm waiting until we get to the next 2 movies.
But anyway, what I'm getting at was like 7, it was kind of hard to tell because it's like she's still learning. It's like, holy shit, I'm using a lightsaber. Cool. But like, I just was like... it kind of like when something sticks out, and it's like, who can she be related to?
Right.
And it was for me, it was either Qui-Gon or Palpatine. That's who it was between, or Obi-Wan.
Well, to be fair, I've seen this thing on because I watch a lot of Star Wars videos and shit, and so this thing has been trending on my like you should watch this is a video from a couple years ago that says
I know what video you're talking about.
Rey, it's like Rey is a Palpatine, and here's why.
Mike Zero?
I don't know who it is, but it's basically been trending because of the latest release, and because of that very reason, she comes out to be one, and it's like this guy fucking called it like several years ago when the first movie came out. So like I haven't watched that yet. I've been meaning to, I just haven't. But
me too.
So like clearly, so like if you had the indication that might be, I'm not calling bullshit at all because
No.
because clearly that guy called it too. So like yeah,
I didn't really put that together until the last movie where at that point I was like, I don't give a fuck who this bitch's parents are. But when they're like, she's a Palpatine, I was like, okay, cool, whatever.
Yeah, I just always
we'll
like
save that conversation for later.
Like I said, it was the whole technique, and like it's just because a lot of the Jedi technique is similar. Besides those two people,
everyone has their own kind of fighting style, but we could really get into the weeds on that.
When it's like down to the like bare bones of it, like especially in Episode 9, you see it when Rey's fighting Kylo. You see just the jabbing. That's what I was trying to say. The jabbing thing, dude. It's like it's
Fair
more
enough.
than once, and it's like you start to figure it out. And I'm like, obviously they set it into Episode 9. But like before that fight scene happens, but I'm like, I was right. And like when I said if it was Mike Zero, this dude, like ever since the Episode 9 trailer dropped, I watched this dude's YouTube channel, and once you watch one on YouTube of lore of Star Wars, you just get this fucking recommendations.
Your recommendation feed is just loaded
Shit.
with Star Wars shit.
And this dude
that's mine.
He was convinced. He's like, it has to be Palpatine. And he said he has these people that have leaked like scripts and shit. And I was like, I'm too eager. I gotta watch what he thinks. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. And everything he said was fucking right. And I was like, dude, holy shit. But long story short, yeah. So that's all I got.
7. Yeah, I think we all kind of agreed that.
Yeah.
None of us think 7 was bad. It wasn't like amazing, but it was just fine. For sure.
Yeah, no, I didn't have any issue. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to 8. Here's no, I'm sorry. It's Nerd Soup. That's the one that I've been seeing a lot.
Yeah,
that's
that
been
one.
recommended.
Yeah, I remember the thumbnail.
Yeah,
I haven't watched.
I haven't watched that either.
I'm going to. I just haven't yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was the one that I keep seeing. All right, so episode 8. All right, this one might be. So you agree with us now. So this probably won't be the one that we harp on the most. So the next episode is probably the one that we will. But
I'll jump.
I'm going to go ahead and apologize if I have any abrasive language that might offend some of our viewers.
I'm drunk right now, and this is probably my least favorite. So
this is a very
it's probably good
touchy
timing
subject
that
for
we're
me.
all pretty toasted about to talk about this one.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, go ahead and go, Harrison.
And I'll be brief because I have the same opinions.
Base opinion first, and then we'll dive into it.
So I went in, and this is something I think, and I want a lot of. This is my TED Talk, real quick. It's really, really quick, and this is with all.
Step up, get on your soapbox.
This is with all Star Wars fans.
On a soapbox for the world to see.
Leave your fanboying to the side for a second.
I'll try.
Now, with that in mind, I went in to see episode 8, and I literally saw it like I think 2 or 3 times, and I was like,
may God have mercy on your soul.
oh, it's great. And it's not. It's not. It's like the second worst movie of all time. Like, and without just going on, because I could go on how this movie's bad for hours, but Chandler and Trevor have shown me the real dark side of this movie and how fucking bad it is. So like, I was like, it took and I hate to admit it.
It's a very divisive movie between fans.
It is. And so here's the thing though. Here's the reality of it. The real moral of this is you should not change directors in the middle of a trilogy. You shouldn't. And this is proving the point in this movie, because 8 is, it's just bad. Like, it's just not good. And like, it took me to watch it out of theaters to realize that, because there was a lot of hype off of 7, and like we said, it was great, but 8 is just bad. Like, it's just, they made Luke look like a fucking joke. Ugh. They made, and I was like, I knew that from the beginning. There was one con that stayed with me throughout my personal opinion. They made Luke look like a fucking joke. And I was like, that's really dumb. They made him look like an even goofier Yoda in episode, what was it, when he died? 6. Whenever he was training Luke, he was like real goofy and just kind of crazy. Kooky, that's a good word. They made him look even goofier than that, and there was a lot of comedy to it. And I was like, cool, they introduced comedy. It broke a lot of it. The comedy was just kind of slapstick. It was just not good. And yeah, I mean, when I try to think of a pro about it, almost none. I was like, cool, Leia is force sensitive, but at one point I'm like, she just didn't say anything. Like, what the fuck? She didn't say shit. She just let that shit happen. What the fuck? And I was like, the more I start to realize these loopholes, and again, Star Wars fans lose that fanboy bullshit. You need to realize if there's a loophole, accept it. And I accepted it, and it's completely tarnished Episode 8 as a movie to me. It's completely ruined it. And that's all I gotta say.
Chandler, your base opinion.
Y'all go ahead and say the rest.
Okay. So Trevor and I are, I guess, maybe self-titled or other titled, like, film elitist.
Okay,
like,
no. Hang on. We are titled by this by Matthew Fisk, who has called us elitist. So.
He's called us Star Wars elitist.
Yeah. Not true.
I can see it. I could agree on maybe like a film elitist. Me and Trevor really enjoy good movies.
You're a cinephile.
Film in general, I will agree with Fisk. Maybe I am an elitist. Maybe I'm more of a critic than an actual like regular moviegoer. I'll agree with that, and I'll agree with that with Chandler too, because we're kind of the same. But Star Wars, we are not elitist. That I don't think that's a fair statement at all.
And I will say, I mean, coming off of 7, like, I enjoyed it. Like, I loved it. So I was like, the hype was real going into 8. Like, I'm really excited to see where this trilogy is going to go. But I mean, since I watched Star Wars, like, as a kid, like, I probably started watching Star Wars maybe when I was like 7 or 8 years old, and I've been hooked on like the franchise ever since. Like, I've always loved it, every bit of it. I've ate up every bit of Star Wars content I could get.
Sure.
And 8 was it and I'm not really saying it to like try and like for dramatic effect, but it's really hard for me to put into words like how I feel about this movie, because it's such a blow to like
Yeah.
I don't know, like there's a lot of parallels that like I draw to like the Star Wars like stories, like, and like the overarching like views of everything like within this multitude of stories that I draw to my own life. And it's a piece of who I am is with Star Wars because I'm such a huge fan of it.
Sure.
And just to like really just put it like as pointedly as I can, like 8 was just it was a slap in the face. Like as a movie, it's not one of the worst movies I've seen, but as a Star Wars fan, it makes me nauseous thinking about it. I try and block out 8 like into my memory as much as I can. The things that they did to Luke makes me nauseous. Like to this day, like even thinking about it,
It's criminal.
Yeah, it makes me sick to my stomach what they've done to a franchise that through its highs and lows, like it's had its ups and downs throughout the years. There's been good, there's been bad, but what they did was just wrong and defiled like characters that people have grown up with for over 40 years. And I don't know how it gets approved, like all like the bullshit comedy that like Luke has. Like when Luke threw the lightsaber over his shoulder, like I want to like, just thinking about it, I want to throw up. And I like, I don't mean that like joking. Like I literally get sick to my stomach like thinking about it, because it's like such like a true character. Like when you think about like characters like in movies, like and in film, like throughout the years, like huge, like these big, huge heroes, like Luke Skywalker is at the top of the list, and what they did to his character is horrible. I think what they did completely ruins everything that what he is, what he stands for. And there's just so much in this movie. I could go on so long about it. Like the Canto Bite segment is horrendous. There's so many other little things.
Which segment? I'm sorry.
The Canto Bite, like the casino thing with Finn and Rose.
Oh yeah.
That's just like it's so stupid.
Rose, bro.
You can get as political as you want. The feminist thing with Haldo, I don't care. I don't want this in my Star Wars movie. I don't care how PC Disney is. I don't want it in my Star Wars. I want Star Wars. This is what I sign up for. I want Star Wars. I don't care. They absolutely demolished Lightspeed. It's thrown out the window. Lightspeed doesn't make sense anymore from this movie. Leia's Mary Poppins thing where she just flies out at the window. When I was in the theaters, and Trevor can agree to this too, you were there too, but like like the whole time, like I'm watching it, I'm like, it's like I don't want to hate this movie. I don't know if I like it. It's like it's off for me. Something's not right. All this comedy, like Luke, like drinking the green milk from the fucking whatever the hell that thing is. I'm just like
the teat of whatever the fuck that.
Yeah, I was like, I don't like what's going on.
Yeah.
And whenever Kylo like blew up the ship, I'm like, this could really be like a good character arc for Kylo. He already killed his father. He kills his mother. I was like, Carrie Fisher's been dead for over a year. I was like, they need to let her go in the series. I'm like, it's not how I want her to be sent off. I would like to be a little bit more impactful. But in that moment in the theaters, I was like, all right, her character's gone. I was like, I can live with this. And then when she's floating in space, she does and like floats back in. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I'm like, and like I distinctly remember me and Trevor and a few other of our friends are like looking at each other and we're like in disbelief of what is happening.
And we laughed. We audibly laughed out loud in the theaters.
And that's the time when I checked out, but we can get into it more. I'll let Trevor get into it. I'll step off my soapbox.
Well, we can get into it a bit more.
I hate this movie.
Yeah, so this is hands down my least favorite and most disappointing.
No, hold on. Before I end, I will say one thing. After the initial shock has gone, as much as I still despise this movie, I'll put my fanboying enough aside to say that Rian Johnson had the balls to try and do something different.
But fuck Rian Johnson.
Yeah.
Yes. Fuck
yeah.
that motherfucker.
So
he tried to do something different with an established story.
If anyone deserves the bullying that Episode 1 Anakin got, or the actor that Jar Jar got, that Asian girl, what's her name?
Rose,
and Rian Johnson. Fuck both of you.
Or Kathleen Kennedy.
So
is that the girl from Jurassic Park?
No, that's the head of LucasArts.
Oh yeah, fuck you too.
So I'll go ahead and start this by saying I didn't know who Rian Johnson
and I step off.
As a name. I didn't know who Rian Johnson was until after this movie. But the thing that I find very surprising is that he has made some movies that are really good.
Looper, great.
Looper is probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite, time travel epic of all time.
Is it Hayden Christensen in that?
No, that's
Who is that?
Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Bruce Willis.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of a different movie.
You're thinking of Jumper.
Yeah.
I love Looper. Looper is, like I said, one of my favorite time travel movies of all time. I fucking love that movie. It's great. But this movie is hands down my most disappointing Star. Even in watching the prequels, I didn't like leave the prequels after watching them and think, man, I'm disappointed. Like, disappointment was never really my thing with it. I was like, yeah, it wasn't like great, but I still liked it. Like
just real quick, I would say that like this movie is one of the only times I have left the theater and I've been like saddened.
Yeah,
and, like,
yeah.
Really just disgusted with like what I saw and like mad I spent my money.
I don't ever, and I never, as much as I watch movies, I never get the feeling of I should walk out of a theater, but I did in this one. And for me, that really does say a lot. Because, yeah, like I said, when it came to the prequels, as bad as they were at some points, I still liked them. Like, I didn't hate the prequels. I'm like, okay, they're like, like they're not great, but all right, whatever.
They're watchable.
Yeah, they're still watchable, but yeah, like you said, I remember I was watching this movie and I was like, man, is this kind of bad? Like, this kind of seems like this isn't all that great. But I was still giving it the benefit of the doubt. I'm like, it's still early in the movie. We're not even halfway through yet. You know, I can give it the benefit of the doubt. And then that fucking Leia Mary Poppins scenes happened, and from that, like, I remember telling them the other day, I'm like, oh my god, this movie sucks. I was like, oh my god, a Star Wars movie sucks.
I remember being in your house waiting for you guys to get home after the movie. And I was like, it was me and Lainey. We were sitting there.
We
like,
saw it together.
You were with us there.
Yeah, you were 100%.
Yeah, you were with us for the Last Jedi.
Were we?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, because we left the theater and like we left and like there was like this ominous feeling like we all left and where everyone's just kind of like, you know, like kicking like the imaginary rocks like in the hallway of the theater. We're just like, and like someone was finally like, I didn't like that, and then everyone's like, yeah, I didn't like that either.
Yeah, I remember that moment. I will never forget that moment because I walked out of the theater and I was like, am I the only one feeling this? Like, I hope not the only one feeling. And I know Zach felt the same thing too because he watched. That was
That
his
was the
first
first
Star.
Star
That was
Wars
his.
movie.
Okay, yeah, hold on. Zach's opinion is different. Like, let's.
Well, okay, but he's been watching the Star Wars movies now.
Yeah,
But
he's
before
wa-
that,
he's watching
though.
Well, yeah,
them
no,
now.
he had never seen any of them
Yeah.
before, and
That
that
was
was
the
his
first
first. That was his
one.
first one.
I
walking in.
genuinely.
I feel bad
once-
for him.
I was gonna say
It
the same
probably
thing.
ruins the franchise
exactly.
for
And
him,
so, like,
which is a real shame.
And I remember walking out of that, and I was like, I don't want to be the guy that says that movie sucks, but man, I really think that movie sucked a lot. And so then somebody said, I can't remember who it was, but it was like, yeah, I didn't like that. And I was like, oh, thank fucking God, I'm not the only one, because
There's not been many times, like, I don't like smoking cigarettes, but after that and
Yeah.
Suicide Squad, like, I just wanted to spark up a cigarette, like, immediately
Worst-
after
dude,
that movie.
I've walked out of like 2 movies. One I remember is the new Blair Witch movie. And
I can see that.
holy moly, you can ask Lainey. We were sitting in the movie theater, and when the credits rolled, not even when the credits rolled, whenever the last 2 minutes happened, I got up and walked out.
Yeah.
And Lainey was like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "That was the first movie remade. That's all it was."
Yeah.
And I was so fucking angry. I was like,
That's a good way to describe my feelings, like, towards this
Yeah.
movie. I was just angry. I was just mad at, like,
Yeah.
what had happened to
Yeah.
this. And it's not just me. Like, it's a divisive movie because there's a lot of fans that do like it. And, you know, I'm willing to set aside, like, my fanship aside to see, like, from their point of view why they like it, because it is different and it does take the story in a different approach. And I can see, like, people maybe getting tired of the same old story, like, rehashed
Yeah,
or, like, kind of told again.
Yeah.
but Rose is like, dude, okay, like,
Yeah,
one-
we can get into that. But
yeah, good.
But I was just mad, like, at what had happened to this. It's a franchise. It's a huge cultural phenomenon, what Star Wars is. And I mean, I don't want to put, like, Rian Johnson as, like, the whole blame for it, but I mean, he gets the brunt of it because he's the director. But what they did at this movie is just, to me, and I feel like as the majority of, like, Star Wars fans, like, it's just wrong. It's just wrong.
Well,
like, what you did.
Look, okay, you're probably right saying Rian Johnson might not be the whole person to blame. If it was whoever's decision to be like, we need a new director, that person should be put to the firing squad.
I feel like
I think that was J.J. Abrams.
So JJ just says no.
Well, actually, JJ had a script
Yeah,
for
yeah.
episode 8.
I would love to
and
read that.
Yeah,
Johnson threw it out the window when he got in there. though.
Johnson wiped his ass with that script
because
and did his own
basically,
fucking
yeah,
thing.
because basically JJ made it, but he also made it with the intention, like, he made 7 with the intention of, I don't want to do this entire trilogy. I want
You
to.
made 7 or 8.
He made
made
7.
7.
Oh,
He's like,
okay.
I don't want to do this entire trilogy. I want to do it with the intention that I'm going to pass it off to somebody else, and then they can kind of do with what they want with it. And so and which I get that. And Rian Johnson at the time was a pretty reputable director, so, like, I don't blame him for passing it off to him. But he even had, like, a script written, like you said. It's like, but he kind of said, like, you don't have to follow this script. Like, you can do what you want with it. I don't think, but the problem is I don't think anyone expected Rian Johnson, this acclaimed director, to all of a sudden just go fucking ape shit with a Star Wars movie.
Here's
Like,
where it becomes his fault, though, because he had all the freedom, I'm assuming, to write something.
No, he did. He had complete creative freedom.
What the fuck? Like, it's like, dude, like, what?
Yeah.
like, look, like, if, okay. Like I said before, and what I was going to say about Rose is officially the worst character, and here's Jar Jar on the scale. She's worse than Jar Jar Binks. Here's a perfect point. Jar Jar is more important. Jar Jar is more important than Rose.
He's done more.
He's on the
sure.
fucking council. Here's Rose. I'm gonna fucking make a problem out of nothing because I like this guy. And
they don't
cut
go
him off.
anywhere with
They
it.
don't go fucking anywhere. It's like the worst thing. And I had that exact same fucking opinion even when I said the movie was great. I thought Rose was horrible. I'm like,
It's bad romance, like, set up between Finn and Rose.
It's
and
worse than that. What you talked about Anakin and Padme. It's worse. It's fucking
Well,
horrible.
even, like, I'll give, like, for the trilogies, like, Anakin and Padme's, like, romance is set up from episode 1 and it carries out through episode 3. But in episode 7,
it's out of nowhere.
In episode 7, rewatching it, like, a couple days ago, like, it was set up that Finn and Rey have this connection. because like everything like Finn even says, like, and I remember like talking about John with it after we watched it. Like Finn like says things like, after I left the stormtroopers, no one's looked at me the way you have looked at me. And like the whole movie, he's like, I have to get Rey. I have to come back for Rey. I have to get to her.
That's another character flaw.
And like there is a scene where like they're like on Starkiller base, and Rey's like, y'all came back for me. Chewie said it was your idea, Finn. He's like, I'm not leaving here without you, or like something like that. Like it's obviously built up to be between these two people, and then there's like, yeah, it's just going to be Finn and Rose, and Rey's going to do her own thing. I'm just like, why are we going in this direction? Like, we're going one way, and then we start going this other way.
Something that I felt almost stupid, and I guarantee you're about to bring this up, or you were about to, about how I didn't even notice this. The first 5 minutes with Rose's, whoever that was, fighting in space.
Her sister.
Dropping the bombs.
Yeah, I mean, that's just another thing. Like,
that was a whole, like, I was like, whatever,
so
I won't think too much
So
about
all
it.
throughout Star Wars, like, you have, and we can get, like, super nerded out here, but there's different levels of the fighters for starships. You have a normal starfighter, you have a fighter, like the TIE fighter, or the TIE interceptors. You have A-wings, X-wings, Y-wings. X-wings are regular fighters. They're meant for taking out starships, and so are the A-wings are faster, they're speedier. The Y-wings are the bombers. All the bombers drop, they're called like proton torpedoes or like ion torpedoes, but they're little balls of like energy. So like you can't really, and like, it's hard to do anything in space, like, because there's so much like different physics that go into it. But like everything that has been like involved in Star Wars has been like a ball of energy. Like when they launch like a missile, it's just like a red like laser kind of thing. So you can't really be like, well, this doesn't have a weight to it because you don't know what it is. But in this movie, it's the first time where they drop like a bomb. Like they like open up like a hatch and like bombs fall out of it. Like, no, that's not what happens. Like you drop a bomb in space, it's going to not do anything because it's not going to fall because there's no fucking gravity in space. You dumb fucks.
Yeah. That whenever you said that, at first I was like, no. But like, if we're going to be the three fans that we are, we have to put that into account.
It seems nitpicky. Like if that was like one of the only flaws in the movie, like
People are fucking partying.
Yeah.
Is that upstairs?
Probably. Those fucks are so loud.
I can't hear.
It literally sounds like it's right there.
Well, they sound like they're laughing, so we're good.
Yeah, I don't know. Someone's having a good time
As long as they
while we're
fucking
talking
brawling
about this really
outside.
We are
shitty
too.
movie and getting really
No,
more
they're
mad.
gonna bust in here like, you fucking virgins.
No, they
Get
walk
the
in, they're
fuck
like,
outta
hey, you
here.
talking about Last Jedi? We fucking hate that shit too.
Fuck JJ, bro. It's fucking all in here.
But yeah, I mean, like if that was the only flaw in the movie, like obviously we would be nitpicking. But it's that and this and this,
But that's
and this
fair.
and this and
Like,
this and
that's
this and this,
something-
like added upon. Like it's just like so many subtleties that it's like, do you even pay attention to like what you've had like before?
Yeah,
like that's been so many. I'll get off here in a sec, but that's like what I've seen because I really watch like a lot of like movie reviewers or like Star Wars reviews on like YouTube. I'm really interested in the lore of it, but that's like a big gripe like people have with these new this new trilogy is like, do you just not pay attention to like what's been had before? Like there's all kinds of comics, there's books, you have 7, 8 other movies that came out before these other ones.
have
Like, do
plenty
you
of
not
shit to
watch
go
this
off of.
shit? Like you have plenty of story there. Like
You have a lot of base to go on,
yes,
and you just
it's
chose
there.
to ignore
Like
it.
yeah,
It's just blatant.
yeah. It just seems like it's just like you don't care.
So one of my biggest things about this fucking, we talked a little bit about it, but some of this stuff is excusable, but there are two things in this movie that are not to me. That I'm sorry, if you are just a regular moviegoer, it should look fucking stupid to you. The Mary Poppins Leia scene, I can't get past it. I don't fucking care.
Besides the fact that it's like it doesn't like it's stupid like story wise, and if you're a huge fan, it's a slap in the face. But just like the way it's shot too, like it just looks stupid.
It literally
it's
looks
funny looking.
so-
It does look pretty goofy.
It
like
looks
she
so
literally
dumb.
she looks like Superman,
Yeah.
like flying forward. It's just stupid.
It's terrible. So like there's that, and then what they did to Luke is just
Criminal.
That's
it's
the way to
literally criminal.
describe it.
So you know, in the last in you know the
skin's crawling.
Return of the Jedi. I mean, and so many. I'm not the first guy. Fuck, I'm not even the first 1,000 dude to bring this point forward. But like, you know, Darth Vader. It's like he was like, Father, I see something like good within you. And this guy's the most evil motherfucker in the galaxy. He's fucking blowing up planets. He's murdering people, murking people left and right.
Kill children.
fucking
he's the biggest villain in movie history.
He's the Hitler of the
arguably.
galaxy.
The embodiment of evil. So then to turn around and be like, hey, my nephew, I'm kind of sensing some like dark shit in him. I'm gonna murder him.
Yeah, that's just it just goes against everything that Luke is.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yes.
And then also, this movie it seems like Rian Johnson goes out of his way to say fuck you to J.J. Abrams in almost every single way.
It's literally like he just didn't try.
No.
Like, it's like he was just like, like, they literally were like, here's a gold mine. And then they hand it to Doofy from fucking Scary Movie. He was like,
Yeah. So the thing that people gave, and this is where I feel like maybe they were listening to the fans too much. I don't really know, but they gave Episode 7 a lot of shit for playing it too safe. But then this one came out, and it's like, look, I'm not a big fan of playing it safe either, but you can't go so far out of fucking left field to just say fuck you to everything that the originals did, because it's like, okay, Abrams set up this whole world, and you said fuck you to it. So it's like the ending of the last movie was like, I'm handing the lightsaber to Luke. Like, this is the new embodiment.
He's literally passing the torch off to someone else.
The embodiment of like a New Hope of this entire new trilogy. Here you go. First thing that happens in the next movie, chunks it.
God, it pisses me off.
That's
dude.
dumb. That's dumb as fuck. And then it's like, hey, we set up this mystery of who are Rey's parents. And while maybe Abrams in the original one, like in Episode 7, was like, I want it to be Palpatine. Well, in this one, Johnson didn't give a fuck because he was like, you're no one.
Yeah.
There was one more thing. There was two theories, and I gravitated more towards Palpatine because I don't really like midichlorian thing like we were talking about.
Yeah.
There was a lot of speculation because people were like breaking down that whole scene where it was like two people coming together and it was just a reflection. A lot of people were talking about how, if you remember from Episode 3, where Palpatine talked about Darth Plagueis, where
Tragedy of Darth Plagueis.
where he talks about how he could manipulate the midichlorians and
Right.
create, which, if you want to get super nerdy about it, it's like, was he talking about Anakin? Like, he was talking about how Anakin was born, if you want to be for real nerdy about it.
Really, like Anakin is supposed to be like born of just midichlorian.
That's what I'm thinking. But here's my point. So, like, what I'm saying is there's two theories that in my opinion, I was like, I could believe the most. Besides the Palpatine theory, they were saying whoever Palpatine, Plagueis, however the story was going to go, whether JJ or Brian wrote it. Ryan, is it Brian or Ryan?
Ryan.
I'm sorry. Whether Ryan or JJ wrote it, that the midichlorians they were just manipulated to make Rey because she was the last Jedi. Because she wasn't born from anyone, she was just there. And it's like, it's kind of a, whatever, kind of not that interesting. But
I mean, I could see maybe like where he's coming from. Like, she is like coming from like literal nothing, like her parents are nothing, but
you would get into that field
if it was set up that way, then it's fine. But it's
Yeah,
set up that
exactly.
we have this mystery, this mystique of who she is, who her parents are, like where does she come from? Like, we obviously know like she's someone, and then Rian Johnson's just like, yeah, you're a fucking nobody. Like, it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Like that's how I feel like the whole like thing like with this movie is just like, it doesn't matter, nobody cares.
Yeah. Well, you see, like, here's the thing. I don't mind, like, changing directors. That can work. Mm-hmm. But the problem is that it seems like Johnson came in here with this idea of like,
he wants to shit on it.
Yeah, I'm fucking everything that happened before. This is my new vision, and it irritates me because there are some things about 7 that I genuinely liked. Like, I loved, I really liked Finn in Episode 7, and I liked Poe too. Like, I thought they were really interesting characters. But then in this one, it's like everything that they did in the previous episode, it didn't matter. Like because all of a sudden it's like this dude who's like maybe force sensitive. He can go toe to toe with fucking Kylo Ren and not get his head cut off. And then all of a sudden in this one, he's just kind of like, he doesn't really have much to do.
Finn has the same fucking script. It's just him screaming, just the entire. I mean, it's like that in the new one too.
Yeah,
and like it's just fucking.
And it's like they took this dude who I was like, he might not. Does he know how to use the Force? Does he not? Like, I thought he was genuinely interesting. Like this stormtrooper who defects because he's like, I don't want to slaughter a village. Like, that's really cool. And then
Something we hadn't seen before.
Yeah, and then in this one, it's like they literally just resorted to like shit comedy, and then hey, let's go to this casino planet and do this dumb shit that doesn't matter.
Yeah, that casino bit was just as bad as the episode 1 pod racing.
Yeah,
it
just
was
more
pointless.
shit that
Fucking
doesn't.
pointless.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Waste of fucking
Yeah,
script.
and then like that, and then something else is that like this whole movie, he hasn't really been doing much, which I thought was a crime. But then at the very end, they give him something to like stand for. He's like, I'm gonna fucking sacrifice myself so you guys can like, you know, get out of here and be okay. He's gonna fucking, you know,
It's this crazy thing
Yeah.
that I don't know if people have heard. It's called a character arc.
yeah. And so he's like, even though he hasn't had much to do, he's just kind of been like a side character now. And it's like, all right, whatever. But then they finally give him like a purpose. It's like, okay, I don't want to see Finn die, but if he did, it would make sense in this
It would be
part
a
that he's-
worthy sacrifice.
Right. And he's like, I'm gonna fucking crash into it. And you're like, oh shit, okay. Like Johnson's gonna make this decision. I like it. Like
Ballsy.
yeah,
I can buy it.
Like I like it. And then Rose crashes into him, and she's like, "Hey, baby, it's love. Love's gonna keep us together."
No, like me
Like-
crashing into this thing would have kept us together because we'd be all right. No one else would have to die. But she ruined, and like the kissing scene, like between them, she's like, "Love is what's gonna keep us together." Like the quickest like
All
little
fi-
smooch, and I'm just like, dude, like I don't buy it. No one buys it.
in
No
the
one
great,
buys this bullshit.
in the great words of Zach Wright, all females do is eat hot chips and lie.
And then like at the end of this movie, which is something that like a dude that I watched has pointed out, and now I think it's really fucking funny.
I know this
is that like at the end they're all like high fiving and they're like hugging. And they're
Everyone's
like, hey,
back together,
they're
like,
hey,
oh.
what's up, man? Like this is great. We're doing good. It's like
all the
literally
all
like
the gangs
thousands
back
of people
together.
died.
All the gangs back together, but our entire fleet is destroyed, and
Have we
our
forgot
entire,
about the planet that got blown the fuck up, too?
yeah.
Yeah,
Our-
everyone's fucked.
You
Our-
watch them go, oh shit, and then just fucking get murdered.
Our
Like,
entire rebel squadron is blown to 15 people, but we're all together here on the Millennium Falcon. High five,
Dude,
guys!
we
Woo!
fucking won.
Yay!
We won that shit, man. Fucking what's up? Yeah.
If you
What?
take any notes from Empire, that's not how you end it. Like maybe if they ended it like where everyone's like sitting there like on the Falcon, like really
Man,
like,
we got fucked.
yeah, like where do we go from here? Then it might have been a bit more redeemable.
And
But why
here's-
is everyone
yeah.
happy?
Here's another thing, and this is going to trail off into episode 9 too. You're starting to realize these are kind of having the same plot as the old movies, like where episode 8 has kind of a gloomy ending, whether the movie's good or not. Kind of has a gloomy ending, and then into episode 9, it literally ends almost the exact same
Yeah.
way, and
So
it's like what the fuck?
I
Like,
want to go on one more thing on 8
Yeah.
because we've been here a long time before we move on to the latest one.
Oh, dude,
but,
I could go on for 8 for
yeah,
so
me too.
long.
But I think just the send off of Luke was the real travesty.
oh,
yeah.
it was.
Everything like up to that, like him like trying to kill Kylo goes against his character. Him tossing the lightsabers against his character. All like the comic relief things and all the bullshit. Like we had gone up to that. Like as much as it sucks, like it is manageable to see. But like the way they send him off, like it's not even like he does anything. But he is the hero. Him and Anakin are the hero of this entire franchise, and you just send him off in like some like something that we've never seen before either, like a Force apparition where he just appears and like fights Kylo. He's like, haha, I'm not really real. I'm just a ghost, but I look real. And it's like, it's just like a gotcha moment. Like we're just
Yeah.
like, oh, we got you there. Like it's not really him.
Well, he also
And then
he also taunts Kylo too, like which is something that's not.
it's
like,
against his character.
Yeah,
it's
like-
not who he is.
Yeah, he's like, "See you around, kid," and then like disappears. Like, what the fuck? He wouldn't do that.
yeah,
Like, he
and,
wouldn't
like
just.
when I end, like when the credits rolled, I'm like, he can't be gone. I'm like, this cannot be the way that they.
I
end
refused
this
he was
character.
dead too. I was that same way. I was like, no.
And
he's
Mark
gotta be-
Hamill has like you
Oh,
can
he
watch
vi-
like interviews.
Oh,
like
he's
he
adamant that
hates
he-
it.
yeah.
Like he's like, I don't like this, but I'm like locked into
He
this
does everything
position.
but say he hates it. Like
Yeah.
he'll describe it. Literally, he'll do anything but say he hates it.
Yeah,
like
he beats around the bush with a fucking baseball bat, but he won't say like this is dog shit. But like you
Yeah.
know he thinks it's dog
the
shit.
best way to say it, and this is the most mature and incredibly like humble thing for him to say, was like, I have to realize I am just an actor, and Luke Skywalker is the character I play, and I have no choice. And I'm like, That's a sad reality. Like, it's really a sad reality.
Yeah, because like he literally is the character, but he has no choice. He has no decision in like where that character goes. Yeah. Well, I mean, like I remember before this movie came out, and I was reading articles about him saying how disappointed he was with the direction of the character. I'm like, that's weird. Like,
well, you see a lot of that with every movie that comes out. I mean, let's be real. With every good Star Wars fan, there's bad ones, and it's hard to distinguish. Basically, I've always gone into these movies with fresh mindset, no matter how bad the last one was.
Right. Like, I went into episode 9 with a brand new, like, as much as I hated 8, I went into 9 with a complete,
which you should,
with a brand new. I was like, look, my expectations are low because of what happened with 8, but they could rectify this. They can make this a lot better. Like, so I don't,
because you're a good Star Wars fan. You're fine with taking really fucking big L's in your fandom and being like, we can
but
keep
there's
going.
hope.
Yeah,
exactly. And it's like, look, like, it happens. It's fucking bad. We've learned episode 1 sucks huge donkey dick. Like, it happens. Segue into 9. Let's go from there, I guess.
All right, now we're back.
Back again.
We're back again. So we're all fucking piss drunk.
Guess who's back?
John Noah has come into the room now. He's going to be sitting in. We had a whole debacle. He broke a glass with ice. Don't know how that happened. All right, so we're gonna get into the last one, and this one should be interesting because we're all fucked up. So. Harrison, why don't you go ahead and give your basic...
Before we start,
yeah.
Let's just get a toast.
Besides the opinions that we have, cheers to Star Wars.
Cheers to Star Wars and the fanship and the friendships that it has brought.
And hold on. Fuck Ryan Johnson.
Fuck
All
Ryan
right, let's
Johnson.
go.
Fuck Ryan Johnson.
That's right.
Oh, God. Liquor on the table. All right. Okay, so Harrison, you start with your base opinion of the Rise of Skywalker, newest one.
Like I said at the beginning... whenever the fuck I said it.
Who knows at this point? No one knows.
So, I'm glad Disney / George Lucas, however much say he has in it, figured out we shouldn't switch directors, or whatever happened, whether JJ decided to leave or whether Disney was like, fuck JJ Abrams, whatever happened, I hope they learned their lesson, because it was just a bad idea and it was a lot of faulty decision making and a lot of just bad writing. So, with that in mind, here's what I'll say. Episode 9, with what they had to go off of, was good. I think what they had to write off of was decent. I think JJ did good for what he had, and I think, for one, I'm actually impressed with how JJ wrote off Snoke, because that was a big that was something I didn't mention. Snoke. Sorry, Snoke. I always thought it was P. Snoke.
Oh, that's Snoke.
Snoke's murder was like cool, but like kind of like Dooku, just kind of thrown out there.
Yeah, we didn't really touch on the whole Snoke thing.
Right,
in the last.
That was something I forgot to mention. I'm hammered, but like, yeah,
back to episode 8.
But anyway,
it pulls us back.
The more you think about it, the more bullshit you think of. But like, yeah, I was like impressed. Like when they intro, like, okay, like, I mean, you know, JJ's good at writing. We've known this. Like, good for him. He has taken diarrhea and turned it into a solid poo. You know, like it's good. It's decent. Like we're
still
coming
a
up.
pile of poo.
We came up. We've gotten better, and I'm like, cool. I like what he did with Snoke as character development, I guess, technically. So there was that. We all knew from the trailers Palpatine was going to be in it. A big attention grabber. I will say, so with Palpatine coming back, you know, it's like, it was probably their like last grab at like, how are we going to draw people back in? Mm-hmm. And even I was like, how the fuck are they going to do this? And so in the time from 8 to 9, we've seen is it Endgame, the last Avengers?
Yeah.
So we've seen Endgame, and so where Endgame ties into this is where I was like, I'm not a big fan of the whole superhero movies. I'm tired of them. I'm just really dull. With them.
I could go on with that too.
Yeah, and
Trevor could
I
as
just
well.
don't care about them anymore. But like with Avengers, I was like, you know what? Endgame was actually kind of good. Like I was like, they did what they should have done. They made a long fucking movie.
We could go into that, but I don't like Endgame either.
Sure, which is fine.
I like Endgame. I'm
which
with
is
you.
fine.
I like
what
Endgame.
what I mean by I say that is they did the right thing. They made a long movie, and a lot of shit happened. But there was a lot of explanation. There was a lot of delivery, and what I'm following up with is it's a con with the new Star Wars where, they could have made a longer movie because this movie felt super short. And I think with what they, again, like I said, with what they had, they made do. And he did pretty good. But I think they could have pulled the Endgame thing where they just had a long movie because I assumed they were going to pull it episode 10. They were going to have one more, like a part 2 kind of thing. Because I was like, you're ending, and that's fine. I'm willing to take an episode 10 because it's kind of weird ending on 3, but that's how Star Wars does it. That's what they do. They do trilogies.
At this point, you can do whatever the fuck you want with Star Wars.
And so with that in mind, I was like, I told Laney, I was like, they're gonna make a 10, and because I said before
be a good number to end on.
Exactly,
I guess.
episode X. But like what I'm saying is like to end 42 years. 45, 42?
77.
I'm too drunk to do
math is not a construct.
I think it was. I remember it being.
Math.
I remember the number 42, and I'm just like, 42 years is like. I mean, to end that long of a fucking saga. I mean, you have so many.
42.
So many questions to answer, and you have so much shit to just end. And I knew from the beginning, they've already pissed off like half of the fucking fan base. They're gonna piss half of them off. At this point, they're gonna piss anyone off, no matter what. That's how all the movies have been. I've always been that kind of a fan going into these movies. So with that in mind, I'm just like, look, I just hope this ends on a good note or in some kind of a triumphant, like they just fucking go. Like JJ comes in, he's like, I'll save the day. Rips off his fucking shirt. It's a Hulkamania fucking shirt. Let's go fucking. Let's fucking end it. Yeah, like let's go, bro. And when I saw this movie, my only con, besides it being, hey, we should have been with JJ the entire time since episode 8, was it was too short. I think they could have had it longer, and I know a lot of people want to shit on the whole she identifies as Skywalker or whatever instead of Palpatine.
At the end.
A lot of people hate on that, and I'm like, that's
obviously
fine.
We said it before, but spoilers for the newest one. If you haven't seen the newest Star Wars,
I'll put a spoilers on.
If you haven't seen the new one, anyway,
I guess go see it.
Yeah.
If you got nothing better to do,
but
if you got nothing better to do,
like I said, we shouldn't have to make do with what we have, but we have to. In our cases, I assume John feels the same way about episode 8, right?
Yeah, I don't think he didn't like episode 8.
You didn't? Okay, so we do feel the same
he's
way.
still our friend.
I guess I wasn't a friend for a while. But anyway, we made do.
I'm just kidding. We love you.
Yeah. No, it's fine.
I hate you.
Anyway.
I hate you!
We made do. At the end of the day, I look back at it and I'm like, the only thing I hate about it is it was too short. Finn's whole I forgot to tell you this thing was pretty dumb.
His I have something to tell you thing.
You know what I'm talking about?
Like,
when they're sinking into that hole.
Yeah, and he's like,
Ray,
I have to tell you something.
Yeah.
But
And you never hear about it
I
again.
don't know what it is.
Yeah. That's pretty dumb. And what else? The Knights of Ren. That was another thing. Ren, sorry. The Knights of Ren.
The liquor's talking now, Leahy.
Yeah, I'm sorry, bub.
I am the liquor, Randy.
But last thing. So the Knights of Ren should have been emphasized in 8 anyway.
The Knights of Ren looked cool.
They looked Really
and
cool.
that's about all they did.
100%, they should have been Siths. They should not have been fucking just regular weapon-wielding motherfuckers. But
According to the prophecy, there's only 2 Sith. There's a master and an apprentice.
It's the rule of 2 with Sith.
Yes.
Yeah, they have to follow that.
Oh.
Until this.
That doesn't mean you can't be evil.
Right.
But yeah, you just can't be a Sith.
I'm just saying, like, at least wield a lightsaber.
They should have had something other than just following Kylo and looking
Sure.
menacing.
Yeah.
Like, I always wanted, like, and this is just another little thing I was talking about, like, the whole blind Jedi thing. Like, I always wanted, like, some kind of, like, numchucks, lightsabers.
Like Bruce Lee lightsaber.
Some shit like that. And I know that sounds really goofy, but
I could see it pulled off.
think about this.
Till someone
Just really
chops their
quick, really
torso
quick.
in half.
Really quick, like, once I get off my opinion, think about this. So, get, like, Yoda's lightsaber. It's tiny. Right? It's made for his hands. So, you get 2 of
Like
those.
my pee-pee.
You get 2 of those. You just put some chain links on them. You got fucking nunchucks, dude. Like, fucking, you got nunchucks. Like, it's,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I can see it.
it'd be super dope. And I always thought that'd be cool. I wanted to see new lightsabers. Like, because the trailer with Rey, when that little fucking,
Switchblade,
bro,
Swiss Army knife, lightsaber.
I was like, hold up. When I saw that trailer, I was like,
Trailer fodder.
what?
Trailer fodder.
What?
Like, they just... It was like an insignificant scene in the movie, and they just put it in the trailer to, like, get people like... Look at the lightsaber! Look
yeah,
at Rey!
yeah,
It's red!
It was insignificant, but again, that goes on to the thing, like I said, they play off a lot of the old movies, like when Luke was training and he saw himself in Darth Vader's mask. Like,
Yeah.
they're doing a lot of fan service.
All right, so before
So-
we get too far into it, Chandler,
But
basic
yeah,
opinion.
that's what I was saying.
Okay. I went into this movie with an open mindset. I had... What was it? 2 years after Last Jedi?
Yes.
I think?
Yeah,
Almost
So-
3 years.
It came out end of 2017, I think.
Yes, and this one
Yeah.
came out in 2019. So, I had 2 years to kind of absorb Last Jedi. I'd accepted its faults for what they were, and I went into this one like, I liked Episode 7. JJ directed Episode 7. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to go into this one hoping that it's good, but my expectations are low. I did not like this movie. It's hard for me to put it like on a scale of like comparing it to the last one because they're really different, but I didn't like this one. And to say that, like a caveat to that is that JJ did maybe not the best that he could do, but he had a lot to pick up from. There's a lot of retconning that he had to do. He had to pick up the pieces of what the last movie did.
Sure.
So it was an uphill battle from the start. But even with that, like, it was just like, and we'll get more into it, but it just wasn't like what it was marketed, like the end of the saga. It's the end of the Skywalker story. Like this huge, like almost 42 years, no, not almost 50, but this huge story is coming to an end. We have so much to like go back to, and like at the end of it, I was like, is this the best we really could have done? I don't think so. And we'll get into the weeds of it, but there's a lot of things that just doesn't make sense to me. And I've talked to Trevor and John about it like this, like in The Last Jedi, there's like a good like portion of like maybe like 4 or 5 scenes where I'm like, what the fuck is happening? This doesn't make any sense. But in this movie, there's not a whole lot of like scenes where I'm just like, this is stupid, like I'm checked out. But it's more of like just like quick succession where I'm like, okay, I'm not sold on it, but next scene's coming, let's go.
Yeah, it's really quick.
I don't.
Yeah.
Okay, well, next scene. Well, yeah, sure, I'll buy into it. Oh, okay, next scene. So there was a lot happening, and I agree with you. Like I would have been fine. Like if they would have went to an episode 10, or they would have made like, well, maybe not an episode 9 part 2. That would have been stupid. But if they would have made it like this last ending, like not do a trilogy, they would have made it 4 episodes for this story. I would have been okay with that because you had a lot of groundwork to pick up on. But before we get into the nitty gritties of it, I'm not a huge fan of it. I don't like the way that Star Wars has ended this huge story, because they've put it as the end, so we can't really go past the Skywalker saga at all. It's done. And I don't like the way it's ended. It's a really bitter kind of taste in my mouth where I'm not satisfied. There's something else that I want, and I can't particularly say like what I want, but what I have been given is not enough. And that might sound like maybe like fanboyish or like maybe selfish or something, but I mean, we have the means to make a good story, and
Absolutely.
we could have done it better. And we'll pick apart the things of it, but as a whole, we could have done better. I don't think it was that great. I'd put it maybe just a step above Last Jedi.
Yeah. Shit. All right. So you'll have to forgive me if I don't articulate myself well here. I'm
Do your
pretty
best.
fucking. I'm pretty pissed drunk at this point.
I'll interpret.
Oh man. Yeah. So this movie was a clusterfuck for me, because so much happens in such a short time period that it's very hard to follow, even as someone who's like a pretty
I have a good
big
metaphor for it, but I'll add that after you finish.
Yeah, even as someone who's like a pretty big fan, I mean, I went to the bathroom for like I literally like sprinted to the bathroom and sprinted back, and I felt like I had missed an entire I missed a whole saga of Star Wars just in that short amount of time. It's like I don't even know. It's like we're on one planet, we're doing one thing. All right, shit, we're on this other planet, we're doing this other thing. Hang on, we're on another planet doing another thing. All within like
we saw it togetger, right?
Yeah, we did, and it was just jumping all over the place. Kind of like you said earlier, this is why you don't change directors midway through, because I felt like my biggest thing is that you can definitely tell that there's not a plan. There's not a plan for this trilogy. The first episode felt like it was a startup of a plan. The second one feels like fuck this plan, and the third one says let's rectify what I wanted to be the plan from the beginning.
Yep.
And for it to be the last movie, you can't do that because it just doesn't fit well with everything. So like this one dude that we listened to, what's his name? Chris Stuckman. I like that guy a lot when he reviews movies, and he put it into words that was like perfect for me, at least. It's that when the old trilogy ended, a lot of stuff meant things. So like Anakin was the chosen one, even if it didn't seem like it, because he was Darth Vader at the end of the old. He was the one that rectified the whole prophecy.
He brought balance to the Force.
He brought balance to the Force because he turned around and he threw the Emperor off the thing. He said "fuck you," and everything rectified itself. With this new trilogy, it invalidates that. Mm-hmm. And only because, and the only reason it does that is because it brings back Palpatine. Now, I don't necessarily have a problem with bringing him back, but to do it in the very last movie just feels so forced. It doesn't feel natural.
Maybe if you did it from the start.
Exactly. But even that, I feel like would invalidate it, because the Chris Stuckman dude, he put it in perfect words. It was like, peace doesn't last forever. Even in the wars that we win, that we were the good guys, like it doesn't last forever. And there's some new asshole that's gonna come around and be like, "Fuck you! I'm the new asshole in town. Like I want to disrupt the peace," and I'm fine with that. So like in the old trilogy, it ends and like, okay, peace doesn't last forever. It lasts 30 years, and then like the new thing happens. So it's like the First Order now. But when you bring back Palpatine, it's no longer the new asshole in town that's like causing problems.
It's rehashing.
Yes, it's the old dude, and because you bring back the old baddie, it completely invalidates that entire story arc. And it's like, well, then literally everything Luke, Leia, Han, and Anakin did means nothing because you brought back Palpatine at the very end.
Stories and character arcs from the 6 previous movies, like Qui-Gon teaching Obi-Wan, Obi-Wan teaching Anakin, Anakin falling, Obi-Wan teaching Luke, and Luke rising to defeat Palpatine and getting Darth Vader to come back to the dark side. It's just like, yeah, fuck you. Like, he's back.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like,
guess who's back?
I would have been
again.
Yeah, I would have been so much more okay with if they just stuck with the First Order. It's this brand new cast of villains. Like if they just stuck with Snoke, not fucking like, even if they did murder him in the second one, like he comes back because he's fucking crazy powerful or something. if they had brought a new slew of villains, I would have been much more okay with that than to bring back an old dude. And I feel like that is much more of a nostalgia grab than anything.
Yes.
And so like, but like I said, like even if they wanted to make Rey a Palpatine the whole time, like that was the original plan, I would have wanted to see more of that in the second film, because I wouldn't have been like, okay, this came out of left field.
Like you bring Palpatine back out of nowhere, and then out of nowhere, we think Rey's parents are a nobody. And we're like, oh, just kidding, she's a Palpatine. Oh, and by the way, Palpatine's back.
Yeah, exactly. And so like, somebody put it in like a pretty good perspective. It was like, okay, say you didn't want to have Palpatine in your second movie, but you murder Snoke at the end of it, and then like you hear Palpatine like laughing at the end, like over a fucking voice cast. Like at least even that small amount of Palpatine would have been like, oh fuck, there's more to this than we thought. But they didn't do that. They just, in the next movie, he's just all of a sudden the new antagonist. And I have a big problem with that, because this whole movie is so, the whole trilogy is so disjointed because of the changing of direction. So the last movie, you can just feel it. It's just damage control, because it's like the people were too pissed at the first one for playing it too safe. And then the second one, they were too pissed for doing too much crazy shit. And then the third one, they're like, all right, here, we'll rectify the crazy shit with the safe shit. We'll try to make you happy, and you can just feel it.
I mean,
like,
I don't know how many times we can say it, but it's like that's why you shouldn't change directors.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's literally like at this point, it's like, what did you not
can
understand?
change directors as long as those directors have an idea of where the story
you need to have a
go.
plan. That's the main thing. It doesn't matter who the directors are. It doesn't matter who the writers are. You need to have, when we're starting a trilogy, you're doing a trilogy. We knew that from episode 9. From episode 7. It's gonna end on episode 9. So there's got to be some kind of base plan, and maybe you can be creative.
You can fill in the blanks along the way.
You can fill in your blanks, but here's where the characters are going to start. Here's where they're going to end, and they didn't do that. They said, here's where the characters start. The second one, do what you want. The third one, do what you want. Like that, you can't do that.
Yeah.
And with this movie, with it being such a clusterfuck, I feel like you can just really feel that. Like that's the biggest thing I felt in this whole movie. I was like, this is just damage control.
So a metaphor that I would like to give. So if you've played like an RPG or something, like, and there's the main story, and then there's like a segment where like you just get like, you know what, I don't want to do the main story, I'm going to go on a segment of side quests, and you just do like random things, and like random things are happening. Like it's like literally like you're fast traveling to like one segment, you do this quick side quest, it takes like 15 minutes, you fast travel to this other point of the map, you do this quick thing, it takes 15 minutes, this other side quest. Like that's what this movie felt like. Like there's nothing like, there's no overarching like story that goes with the past 2 movies that we've had. It's just random things happening, and you just have to accept it because that's what you see, and I don't buy it.
Well, there's a lot of things that have happened that you still need answers. Like, how the fuck did Roz get... Is that her name?
Who?
With the fucking glasses?
Maz Katana.
How the fuck did she get the lightsaber?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that was something I was like, please answer this.
They should have answered that in 2.
They should have. Like, why the fuck does she have the lightsaber? Did Obi-Wan give it to her?
Yeah.
Not here's my only thing, and this is just
Obi-Wan, or maybe Luke, or...
Well, I'm just going to say it. Like, it can be Obi-Wan, because I was going to say...
Well, no, because that lightsaber was lost at the end of episode...
That's Luke's lightsaber, right?
Yeah, that's Anakin's lightsaber that Obi-Wan picked up at the end of episode 3 that he gave to Luke in episode 4.
Okay.
That he had in episode 5 when he got his hand cut off. It fell from Cloud City in Bespin. So how the fuck do you get it?
Here's my only thing, and this is me clinging to the last bit of life to this, or faith, I guess probably a better word.
Hope.
God damn you, Chandler.
I'm leaving. I'm going to bed.
Like, here's
Look,
my
I don't
only
make
thing.
the rules, all right?
Look, the Obi-Wan show, like spin-off show, has to answer that. That's my only thing. Like, it has to.
I want to touch on that maybe like when we end, like just real quick, hit the Mandalorian.
That's the only thing, and that is like, I mean, that's reaching. Like, that's fucking.
I think I read some kind of like a technical canon story thing where they explain how it was something really dumb where the lightsaber fell, and one of the people who were on that like sky planet like found it, and they sold it off because they're like, look at this fucking lightsaber, and then eventually it ended back up in that one dumb whatever her name was.
That's exactly how the fuck did that guy end up with the Millennium Falcon. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like the same thing.
I mean, yeah,
But
but
you stole it from this person who sold it to this person
Exactly.
who sold it from this
Yeah.
person who stole
Right.
it from Han.
And
is what they say in episode
and that's
7.
the thing. And I mean, like, what I was kind of talking about was like, it's hard to do all of this storytelling in that time frame. Like, I feel like if you're like I don't know if JJ was like, I can do it in this time frame, or he just wrote a script for that time frame, or they were like, you have to do it in, well, I don't know how long was it, 2:10? It was like 2:20.
What?
The new movie, like how long it was.
oh yeah.
It's just not long enough. Like, it's just not.
Like runtime, like a couple hours.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I'm telling you, it's impossible.
Well, that's the thing that's
it's not gonna happen.
yeah.
Like,
That was the biggest problem about having to go back and correct some of this shit because
He essentially
he tries to
made
do-
2
yeah.
movies in 1 movie.
yeah, he tries to
And
do
it's
his
just-
best.
he just
Yeah.
fucking it's too much.
Yeah.
Like, it's way too much.
Exactly. Well, like I said, I would have felt better because a lot of people have brought this up about doing an episode 10 because it's like, okay, so episode 9 can kind of retcon some of the stuff but still develop a story, and then episode 10 can be the fucking conclusion.
climax.
Where
Right.
all that stuff that had been fucked up before has been rectified, and episode 10 is it's a brand new thing, new slate. We don't have to worry about fixing the old shit. But since they were so hell-bent on doing a fucking trilogy, because like you said, that's what Star Wars does, they not only had to retcon the things that they fucked up in the last movie, but also try to develop their own original story. So, like, in a way, I don't necessarily blame Abrams for what episode 9 has like happened, because honestly, a lot of it, like, there's a lot of character arcs that have just kind of like they ended with episode 7 and 8, like, and so it's like, what do you really do with someone whose story arc has kind of come complete circle? It's like
The best thing that episode 9 did, and I was like, I would suck the soul out of JJ for doing, was keeping Rose the fuck out of it. And I'm like, thank God
He did a lot of things
Yeah.
where like it's like noticeable. Like whenever Rey like throws her lightsaber and then Luke catches it and he's like, "You don't ever toss away this weapon." Like that's like a noticeable like.
he was
slight
like,
to
fuck Ryan Johnson for that.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I'm like, thank
There's
you,
a
bro.
few of those.
Yeah, it's so good. And like, yeah, it's just like,
It's not enough.
Yeah.
it's not a, yeah,
yeah.
you're right.
Well, there's a couple. Okay, there are a couple of things about this movie. I won't completely shit on it. I do like a couple of things about this movie. 2 things mainly that are my favorite. I love the fight scene between Rey and Kylo on like the water planet
was
or
pretty good.
whatnot.
It was fine.
I really like that. I thought that was really cool. And then the one moment of levity that I thought that this movie had was the scene between Han Solo and Kylo Ren,
I also agree.
where it was the same exact dialogue from episode 7, but
Yeah.
it had a completely different context.
yeah, I thought that was
I
fine.
really,
liked
I
that.
really enjoyed that actually. Like, I thought that was really good. I actually felt like emotion in that scene, but that was literally the only part of this entire movie that I felt something.
Sure.
Because everything else just kind of felt like super like bland, and there's not a whole lot of
It's
meaning
just
into
happening,
it.
and there's like it's going so fast that you can't emotionally connect.
exactly.
to it.
But that scene, like I said,
When he says,
same
like,
exact
I know
dialogue.
what I have to do, but I don't know if I have
Yeah.
the strength to do it.
Yeah, and instead of it having like a sinister spin on it, it's like a legitimate, emotional, I want to be a good guy spin on it. I loved that. I thought that was really good.
Kylo's character development was the best out of that. And
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna be real with you, I hated Kylo Ren from the beginning. And I was like,
I hated him in 8 because he was like Anakin in episode 2. Like he was just like a whiny bitch.
He was like that in the whole even it was early signs in episode 7 where he just was like
yeah, where
fucking
he got
blowing
like
that
pissed.
shit up. Like he was
Well,
just
I could pass that off as like him being like
power
not
hungry.
as it. Well, yeah, that too, but like not as experienced or like not, maybe mature enough, I guess, in Sith ways. Like he wasn't strong enough. But then in episode 8, like after like they're on Crate, which is something I want to talk about on 8. That's like one of the things I like. I like Crate, the end planet with the red like sand or whatever. It just looks really cool.
Yeah.
But like the whole thing in there when he's like in the AT-AT and he's like, destroy them, and he's just like screaming and yelling. I'm just like, all right, like why Vader and Palpatine are like sinister villains is because the only time that like Vader like yells is like at the beginning of episode 4 and he's like, find the plans, I want them alive. And like that's the only time like he raises his voice. Like other than that, he's just like calm.
They're calm and
like,
collective. Yeah.
methodical. But like in this one, like if someone's like screaming and yelling and
Weakness.
yeah, like that just shows like a sign of like weakness and immaturity. Like that's how I felt with him. Just like, dude, you're not intimidating. You just look like a pussy. Like you look like a big fucking Sith baby.
I've felt that way since episode 7.
Yeah.
And I was very pleased to see him come around. And and don't get me wrong, I know y'all have seen me like talk shit about how Adam Driver's this and Adam Driver's that. I don't think he's a bad actor by any means. In fact, he's one of the best actors in the movie like saga so far, in my opinion. One of the best. And to see him turn around and become what he was in episode 9 was the best thing to happen in the new movie. Like it was
a good
great
character arc.
And then
that's where I wanted it to go.
Yeah, and then I mean, obviously, it kind of was like, fuck, when he, passed his life on to Rey. And then,
I'm sorry, that was fucking dumb.
Yeah, we can get into that whole thing.
Yeah, that I do want to get into that because that's one of the dumber things about the movie.
If we want to start unpacking it.
Yeah, before that, I really wanted that crowd of people.
Yeah, like on the Sith planet.
Yeah,
or whatever.
I was really hoping. I was really hoping those were like Sith, and they
were.
No, I mean like what I mean is I was hoping there was a fucking giant lightsaber battle between like Rey and like basically it's 2 against thousands or hundreds or however many people those were, just fucking murking, just fucking crazy shit, and Palpatine's just controlling them. He's just floating, fucking puppeteering these fucking Sith and shit. I thought that would have been dope. Like I was like, please have that happen.
Yeah. Woulda, coulda, shoulda is like how I feel about that one.
Sure.
But if we really want to start unpacking it, I think there's a plethora of things that like it just doesn't make any sense. And we can like kind of go rapid fire through that if you want. But like I'll hit like a few things. Like the first thing is like the light speed jumping. Like doesn't make sense. You can't go to light speed in atmosphere.
Oh, with Poe?
No, like right at the beginning. Like
with Poe in the Falcon, right?
Yeah. I can't remember if she was piloting it or not. But yeah, like that whole first segment, like when the TIE fighters are like chasing them like through like different planets, you can't do that. That's not it's established canon. You can't go into light speed when you're in the atmosphere of a planet. It doesn't happen. You have to get into space before you can do it. The whole knife thing is stupid as hell too. Like the Goonie thing, like where she's like holding up the knife to like the Death Star wreckage.
Oh,
like,
Goonies, yeah.
So like it's MacGuffins like the whole time. Like Palpatine makes 2 wayfinders to get to this thing, and then he makes a knife to find the wayfinder to find his home planet on Exegol. To like, why would you have these things in the first place? And then like the whole thing with the knife is that like, oh, it's written in this ancient Sith lore. Like there's a lot of history with this knife. There must not be a whole lot because it lines up with the Death Star wreckage that was only 30 years ago, so it can't be that fucking old. And like her just like holding it up, like that's like a laughable scene where I'm just like, this is stupid. Like this just doesn't make any sense. Like Goonies are cool, but it doesn't fit into Star Wars.
I oddly thought it the same thing. I was like, this is kind of a Goonies thing where they had the little thing and they were like, oh, that matches perfectly.
Like that doesn't make any sense. I absolutely hated. Yeah. I absolutely hated Palpatine's like EMP like lightning blast where he just like reaches up in the sky and like just like shuts down like every rebel ship like with his hands. I hated that.
Yo,
like,
that was hold up though. That was kind of badass. Like
I guess if you accept it, but
he dank memed all those fucking.
It
doesn't make any sense.
I have a problem with those things in general because we've talked about this a little bit before, but you know, in the previous episodes, you know, you had this one thing and like that was it, and it fucked up a whole planet. And it was like the biggest threat ever, and there was only one of them, and you had to figure out a way to make sure they could not have it because it's the most imminent threat to the universe ever. And then all of a sudden, there are thousands of these things everywhere that they can all destroy a planet. I don't want to say it like invalidates the old threat, but it just
it makes it less intimidating.
Yeah, it's like he said, it's like you just don't care as much anymore at that point because it's like I don't know.
Like at one point you have the Death Star that blows up a planet. You're like, holy shit, this thing blows up a whole planet. That's fucking crazy. And then you get Starkiller Base. You're like, oh my god, this thing's even more powerful. It can blow up like 3 or 4 planets. And you're like, okay, well you have 1,000 Star Destroyers that can all blow up a planet, so you can destroy the entire galaxy whenever you want. I'm just like,
and then something else,
sure,
like let's
okay.
put power scaling in there, right? So it took everything that they had to destroy Starkiller Base, which could destroy, like you said, like maybe a couple planets at a time. Everything they had, they're like, we have to fucking do this or we're all fucked. Now all of a sudden there are thousands of these things that can all do the same thing Starkiller Base could do. You're fucked. You can't do anything. If we go off the previous movie,
Except Lando's there.
yeah,
and you're
like
fine.
you're all so unbelievably fucked. There is like the power scaling's so off. It's like you can't do anything. You're gonna die. You're all gonna die.
You have to make, like, in any story, you have to make there's a scaling, like a power scaling. Like if you have like incredibly, like insanely, like god level, like power, like, and your heroes are like, so lowly, like you can't just be like, well, yeah, I mean, obviously they're going to come back and win. Like, it has to be believable at some point. So, like, with Starkiller Base, like, it's just one base that they have to destroy. Like, I can buy into that. But when it's 1,000 destroyers, I'm like, how the fuck are you going to get rid of all of these things?
Well,
but
see,
then they have the MacGuffin where it's just one, like, beacon. They have to destroy the one beacon to get rid of the entire fleet. And it's like, okay, whatever.
Me and Trevor had this
sure.
discussion similar about Dragon Ball Z with Goku,
Oh,
where
yeah.
this is a good comparison. I don't know if you can follow this, Chandler. Well, we talked about how the new series of Dragon Ball Z, I guess series you could call it, Super. So Goku essentially, if you know anything about,
which I love Dragon Ball Z, but I fucking hate Super. By the way, if anyone,
essentially it's like the Goku / Superman problem, where you come into a fact where the character development will essentially be put in a corner because he's too powerful, and there's no development that anyone can like about him, because it's like, oh, you liked Goku from the Cell Saga or the early Raditz Saga because he died, and you saw him learn how to get more powerful. You learned his background. You learned the struggle. You watched people actually get character development because he wasn't there. People learned how to fight for themselves. So, like, where this comes into play, where it's like, okay, so look, you take a main character, you make him too powerful, people expect nothing but him to win. So if that's a fan service and you deliver that, people are going to be like, okay, well, he's got this. And then the creator's just like, oh, but he can do this. Oh, and then this, and then this, and this, and then blah, blah, blah. And eventually it's like, I don't want to watch this anymore because he's just going to keep winning. It's not fun. Like, I want to see failure. Like, it's like you were talking about. You want to see failure. And eventually, obviously, they win in episode 9. But that's, like you said, that setup is pretty ridiculous. Like, I remember watching that, like, there's no fucking way. Like, there's no way.
Yeah.
In reality, I mean, obviously, we're talking about Star Wars. But,
And
like,
even in the way, like, they set it up, like, there's no way you beat it. Like, they have this established thing where you have to have the Waystone to get to this planet because it's so far in the outer rims or off the, like, space charts or whatever. They're like, you can't find it through normal means. But I guess Lando just, like, figures it out, and then him and even, like, in episode 8, they're like, no one's coming.
well, no, Lando didn't figure it out. Luke did. And then Luke and Lando somehow meet up somewhere.
Well, no. Well,
right?
No, because Luke and Lando were looking for the knife on the Coachella planet, whatever.
Coachella planet.
I don't give a fuck what the name of these planets are. The party planet.
Yeah.
Like, him and Lando were looking for the knife there, and then I guess Luke gave up because they couldn't find the wide open spaceship in the middle of the desert.
That's a good point.
Didn't think to look at the spaceship.
I didn't think about that. Holy shit.
So they gave
Oh my
up. So Lando
God.
just stays there and parties with the aliens for 30 years.
Oh my God, we just covered another plot hole. Holy shit.
But it's established that you need the Wayfinder to navigate to Exegol, but Rey does it. And I mean, I guess you could say, like, she, like, somehow, like, gave the coordinates to the Resistance so Lando could get there. But even still, like, the whole first 2 acts of your movie are trying to find this way to get to Exegol to stop Palpatine, because you know that's where he is, but you need to get the knife to get the Wayfinder to figure out how to get to this planet. But then when they get the Wayfinder, they're like, okay, so I've got like the address for Exegol, so if you guys just throw it into your GPS, like you can all get there. But in episode 8, when they're like all getting pinned down by the ships, they're like, there's no hope. No one is coming. No one will come help the resistance because they're scared of the First Order. And the First Order is like scary enough as its own. But then we have the Final Order where there's 1,000 planet killers. And then Lando's just like, hey, yo, guys, round them up. We're going to go take these things down. Everyone's like, oh, well, if Lando's asking, I mean, I got to go. And so then everyone shows up at one time.
Essentially, that's like if fucking like Obama or like Joe Biden was just like, America, let's go, bro. Like, let's go. Like, let's take down Iran. Everyone would be like, no. Like, no.
Jesus Christ.
We're reaching. But anyway,
No, sir.
Like, I mean, you set up this whole like difficult navigation scheme to get to this planet, and then once you have it figured out, like we just toss it out because Lando can show up with all the people. Like, I mean, it's cool. I get an idea. Like everyone like shows up at the end to help in the long haul. Like there is still hope. Like everyone in the galaxy like comes to destroy tyranny, which I get, but it doesn't make sense in this established story that you've already developed within this movie. That you can't get to this planet without the Wayfinder, but everyone else can get there just fine out of nowhere. That doesn't make any fucking sense.
I also think it's funny that everyone's scared of like the First Order, which was basically just like a faction of the Galactic Empire.
Yeah.
Which they were able to all band together and destroy. But like, hey, this small little faction of it is re-arised. Like, oh, we can't fuck with that.
They're like,
oh my God.
We're done. Like,
no, we can't do it.
I can't get involved with the First Order. But
fuck the First Order.
Final Order. Well, I mean, it's Sidious. I mean, we already beat him one time.
Which is literally a million times worse than, like, I would even say the Galactic, because they have, like, a million of the fucking planet destroyers.
Yeah, but they're like, well, Lando says so let's just round up and let's go beat them down.
And then, I'm sorry, but the space horses thing...
yeah, the horses are fucking stupid. It's dumb.
It's so fucking dumb.
Yeah, like how, like
literally, yeah. Somebody said, what was it that like literally you just had to be on it, and it's like all the Straw Destroyer had to do was just be like
burnt and just
like curve,
turn. And
all horses gone,
off.
dead.
Well, what's stupid?
Rebel tards destroyed.
Yeah.
Well, what's stupid before that is in episode 8, like the whole thing is like this one like resistance frigate is on the run from this Imperial or First Order Star Destroyer, and they're like trying to hit them, but they have shields up. But Kylo Ren like flies in with his fighter and he goes through the shields with his fighter and then he hits the bridge directly, which you can do. So obviously you can pass through the shields with a fighter to destroy something. But I mean, I guess in this movie, like it doesn't matter. Like shields don't exist. Like we don't care about that. Like because they're like, we can't hit the beacon from our ships. We have to land on the ship. So they go out of their way to make some like plot point about this girl who defected from the Empire too. So she relates to Finn. And then like right at the end too, they have like a 30-second segment where she's like supposedly like Lando's daughter or something, like the other black girl that's in there who's.
See, yeah, they left it open for
weird.
like a fucking part 2.
That was like, so weird.
Yeah,
to me.
that was stupid. So they go out of their way to make this like plot point on the moon of Endor where the Death Star is, and then they just bring that back so they can bring the horses into this one battle, which they don't need to because clearly with the logic that you've defined in your previous fucking movie, you can fly through the shields of the Star Destroyer to destroy the one beacon that controls this whole fucking fleet. It just falls apart. Like when you start picking it apart, it just falls apart.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense. The stakes aren't real. I don't buy into it. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, and then that whole Lando scene there was weird.
I didn't
to
get
me
it
it was
either.
so fucking strange because
It was
like
creepy to me.
Let's find out.
Yeah, no,
like I didn't know if he was hitting on her or like.
So who are you? Where are you from? He's like, I don't know.
I had
Why don't we
sex
find
with a
out?
droid.
Oh no, that's Lando. He's whatever it is, pansexual with the droid. Or
Droid
something.
sexual.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck.
It's
just gone
because,
so far off course that I just don't give a fuck. I don't care anymore.
That part was really weird to me because it was like supposed to be. You could tell by the way that it was shot that it was supposed to be like this important scene, but you're like.
There's no weight to it.
What does this mean? I've never heard of this before. Yeah. I don't know what's going on. If you're going to develop like a show after this, don't put it in this movie. I don't fucking care. Like
Lando was just a cameo at best. This other girl, I don't remember her name because she's forgettable. I don't give a fuck about, but somehow she has a connection to Lando, so we can make another show so Disney can make more money. And
Disney owns the world.
I don't care. Like, you're taking away from your core story to make these tens of side stories that no one cares about, and it's taking away from your main story. You're doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I thought that whole part was very strange. I remember watching that. I'm like, what am I supposed to gain from this scene? This doesn't make any sense to me.
And like the introduction of that one character who's like Poe's like old buddy or whatever, like
pointless.
Who cared? Yeah, the girl that had like the face like shield the whole time, like you only saw like her eyes for like a second.
Don't get me wrong. Carrie Russell's hot as fuck. I like Carrie Russell. There was no point to have her in this movie.
Yeah,
it didn't make any sense.
And they go on like this whole thing like. Here's the chip. This is the only way to get off of the blockade of this planet. I want you to have it. Okay, it's someone from Poe's past. She made a character arc. She dies in it. She made a sacrifice for the Resistance. Just kidding. She's back. Who gives a shit? I don't care who this person is. I don't care if she's back.
They left it open for like part 2. Like, I don't know why they're
leaving it open for side stories that I don't give a fuck about. I want the main story. That's what we're here for.
Right.
The movies are the meat and potatoes.
Why
are we going out of our way to make these side stories relevant?
Yeah, well, that's part of the problem
because
is that
we want money.
Yeah, well, some of the older Star Wars is that like you had the main story, and then you could make the lore off of the main story. Which made sense.
But you didn't use the main story to create the side stories. The side stories are a byproduct of the main story, not vice versa.
Right. You can't. Yeah, exactly. You can't just leave it open to like even more like going in knowing, hey, we're gonna like this part with Lando, we're gonna make a whole side story off of that. You can't do that. You make the story, you make it good, and then if there's parts where you can make additional,
like I'm just waiting for the day where I get Lando to like Lando Jr. or something on Disney Plus, and I'm just gonna
Lando Jr.
and I'm just gonna seppuku with my fucking lightsaber in my room. Like I just can't take it anymore. It's oversaturation.
Well,
of shit.
This is off of future movies. All we can hope for is that they do the Old Republic good with whatever they're making, and I know that's a lot to ask for coming from you guys.
I think we've said all we can say about Episode 9, but I would like to end on a high note. And Trevor hasn't watched it, so we don't want to get into spoilers of it. But The Mandalorian was great.
Oh, it was great.
I loved The Mandalorian. I cannot wait for season 2. What's his name? He was big in Marvel. You know his name? He was in the Spider-Man movies. We talked about it.
Oh, John Favreau.
Yeah, John Favreau. Like he wasn't the director. Like so, there was directors.
For you're talking about the guy from the Shield part. He was part of the Shield program in Marvel, right? The actor wise.
They called him like what was it, Happy or something like that.
He was in the Spider-Man, the new Spider-Man.
He was in like Iron Man.
Yeah, I was about to say he was in Iron Man.
He was in Endgame when Stark dies.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. So he was like the head of the Mandalorian. Like he didn't direct the episodes. Each episode had a different director.
He has a very good grasp.
Yes, he has his head on straight. He knows what he's doing. He's not trying to just make shit to make money. Like he's trying to make good content. So The Mandalorian was great, and some of the best episodes in The Mandalorian. I can't remember her name, Debbie something maybe, but she did like episode 3. She did the last one.
You're talking about Ron Howard's daughter?
No, she made the worst episode that season.
Which episode
that was
was
Bryce
that?
Howard. That was episode 4 where they went to the village and fought the ATST.
You thought that was the worst episode?
Yes, I didn't like that one.
I haven't seen it. It's not,
It was either episode 4 or 2 was the worst for me. But
we're not spoiling much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But episode 3 and 8 were my favorite. And it was, I'd have to look up her name, but she's the lead director for Kenobi. And that really gives me hope because episode 3 was fantastic. Because when I first started watching it, that was the only one out. And I watched all 3 episodes in one night in my bed. And I was like, holy fuck, I'm so hyped. And then the last episode, I was like, oh my God, this episode was incredible. I was like, I cannot wait for more. Like, give me more Mandalorian.
For what Mandalorian was, it's great. Like,
you know what's great about it? I don't know anybody. And like, there's no like, they might have like very, very subtle like fan service, like callbacks, but there's like no like reoccurring characters. Like, I didn't see Lando. I didn't see Han or Leia or like these people I already know. It's a new cast of characters. It's gritty. It's darker. It's something new.
I know you
That's
said
what I like.
your favorite droid was that droid from Rogue One. Mm-hmm. I guarantee you, when you watched Mandalorian,
You're
you
gonna
will
like
change
IG-11.
your mind. So IG-11 was that skinny bounty hunter droid that you saw in the old episodes. You know what I'm talking about? So you remember that scene? I think it's from the fourth or fifth episode where you see like Darth Vader talking to all the bounty hunters.
Yeah, he's a bounty hunter droid there. It's real small.
I mean, it's like that quick.
They have
okay.
they have
Yeah,
appearances
that
in the Clone Wars animated series
This
too.
droid goes fucking off. Like every time you see him in the fucking show, he's beating ass. Like he's just holy
Yeah,
fuck.
Droid
dude.
beating cheeks.
Oh
Yeah, it's
my
great.
god, dude, it's fucking great, and like the action is top notch, dude. Like and another thing, I was like kind of I didn't like the biggest con for me was the episodes were really short, but so much happens, and it's ass kicking nonstop. Like
But it's not like where like episode 9 where it's so much happening around like I can't keep up. Like,
No, it's-
in like one.
it's solid.
Yeah,
Like you're in the perfect position where you can watch all of it.
one
in
episode
go.
is
Yeah.
like almost set in like one single like shot, like one hallway.
Really?
And like yeah,
Dude, the
So, like, it's,
action-
like,
the
super minimalistic, but
Yeah.
great in that.
The action that he is beating.
It's great.
Ass. It's
And
fucking great.
If the lead director, the lead director from episode 3 and 8 is the lead director for Kenobi, and as a huge Star Wars fan, I've really lost faith in the main movies from the last 2 that have come out, but The Mandalorian is my last strand of hope. There's
Yeah.
still hope in the galaxy, and it is in the hands of Jon Favreau.
Yeah.
He holds the fandom.
I'm glad to
there.
see him definitely do some good with The Mandalorian. And like I was saying, whatever they do, like last time I heard, like the latest news about whatever they're going to do with the new saga, I heard before it was going to be about the Old Republic, I heard it was going to be the directors from Game of Thrones were going to take over.
They jump ship.
They did? Good, because apparently they trashed
I
Game
don't
of
think
Thrones.
it was. I'd have to look into it, but like something happened between like corporate of like Disney and Kathleen Kennedy and LucasArts, but like they just like didn't agree on like a script or something. But
Well, whatever happens, I won't jump humongously deep into that because that could be a whole other 4-hour podcast. The Old Republic,
pushing that, we're
Dude.
like 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
the
we're
old,
almost there.
the Old Republic. Oh my god,
There's a lot to
dude.
explore there.
If you're a huge fan of Sith lore, my god, you will have a field day with the Old Republic, dude. It is just fucking gnarly. There's a Sith Lord that is so fucking evil. Like he's so angry he was about to die, and he was literally gonna kill over, and he was so angry he brought himself back to life. He's so fucking mad.
I'm so mad that I'm dying. I'm gonna live forever.
That's how I felt after I watched The Last Jedi.
Seriously, like he's so fucking pissed he lived. Like the hardest thing I think I've ever heard. Like it's
Be how Palpatine lived.
well, there's that. The Old Republic covers Palpatine's story, like Plagueis and shit. Like I haven't read into the books deeply.
Yeah.
But like it talks about Plagueis and how he was like he taught Palpatine, and how Palpatine eventually killed Plagueis, and then how, it explains how Plagueis, and
Yeah.
it kind of ties into the new movie ish, like very briefly, but like it's dude, if you dive into those extended universe novels, your life's gone.
Well,
Like,
yeah.
you
well,
won't
you see,
come back.
that's one of the things about not just Star Wars, but like I don't know, mediums in general. Is that like me as someone who goes, to the movies or whatnot, especially when it comes to Star Wars, I care about the action, but I also care about like a good,
Storytelling.
yeah, exactly, storytelling. So it's like, you can make a movie that doesn't have a lot of lightsaber battles, like I'm assuming, like I haven't seen The Mandalorian, but it's about a bounty hunter. Bounty hunters don't fucking wield lightsabers and shit like that. Like you don't have to have that for it to be a good Star Wars story.
Yep.
If it's a good story that is engaging and has some of these elements in it, then that's all you need.
That's all that matters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be this fucking grandiose, look at how amazing our movie looks, But if it's lacking the basic storytelling elements, then it's not a good movie.
You got to
yeah.
We got to backtrack a little bit. We got to get back to the core of what makes a good movie. And like in episode 4, what makes a good movie is it's a really basic story done right.
Exactly.
And that's what we have to get back to.
Right.
And I think The Mandalorian does that. It's a basic story done right.
Yeah, exactly. And like,
And that's why it's good.
like the original Star Wars, it's not like when I watched that movie, I'm like, man, that plot was like the best thing I've ever seen. Like, no, it still has its flaws and it's cheesy
It's
at some
basic.
point. Yeah, it's cheesy at some points, but it's a good science fantasy flick. Like
Absolutely.
there's nothing wrong with it. And yeah, like to me, less is more when it comes to these movies.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's just gotten
Yeah.
to the point where everyone wants so much more from these movies that no one can be satisfied because everyone wants something different.
Well, it's kind of like
we have to draw it back.
when we talked about, I think it was the three of us last time we were talking about, we were on the whole Midsummer conversation and we trailed off on the Queen, the Bohemian Rhapsody movie, where
Is that the last podcast y'all did?
no, with us three in it specifically, where we
Oh.
talked about how
yeah.
we had talked about how who's really there to see it because they're a huge Queen fan, and who's there because they
They
just
wanna
know-
be entertained.
Exactly, and I think that's where you. Kinda,
That's where we're at now. Like,
Exactly,
people want to
exactly.
go to the Star Wars movie to see lightsabers and blasters and cool stuff.
Absolutely,
And
Yeah.
I agree.
they're entertained for their 2 hours, but at the core of it, you have a huge story and
Yeah,
a huge
it's more than that.
overarching universe
Yeah.
that's more than just your 2-hour runtime.
Exactly.
Exactly.
It's
You
more
have-
than lightsabers clashing.
And you have to respect that and pay attention to that and give credit to those fans and do it justice.
And I think I think that's what Rogue One was trying to do. Like, but I think it just wasn't the greatest. Like, I think, because, like, if you were to be like, hey, here's kind of filler, but it's very good. Like, it's like, hey, here's what happened. Like, you saw what happened in these movies, but we don't ever really talk about the people that were just ordinary human beings and not the main characters. What can we talk about? It's like, well, we didn't talk about, the daily life of a stormtrooper. Like, what does it take to become a stormtrooper? What does it take to become a rebel? What is it like to leave your family behind and go fight for the resistance? Or those are all fucking good tropes. Like, you can go from there and have a good movie. Like, you don't have to sit there and be like, you don't have to completely fan service every single person, because moral of the story, you're going to piss someone off.
You're not going to
Well,
please
right.
everybody.
Yeah,
Exactly.
no one. Yeah, you're right.
You're going to piss anyone off no matter what.
Well,
Yeah.
the thing about it that I have, and this goes with like a lot of mediums in general, because you were talking about Dragon Ball Z earlier. Like that's another big theme throughout is
Right.
that it's like progression through struggle, and it's like, when you see Rey and Kylo fight with each other, or name two other people, it doesn't matter in the Star Wars series, when they clash, it's typically there's a backstory to it. And depending on how well developed that is, you get a bigger payoff in their
Like
clashing.
the episode 3 lightsaber.
Yes,
fight.
exactly. Like, you get this amazing payoff between Anakin and Obi-Wan, because it's like this amazing dynamic that they have with each other, and the former master, former pupil trying to take over. Like, you feel
It's just a good story, like on paper, and then when you add the cool lightsaber
Yeah.
actions, it sells it even more.
Well, the point is that you feel the payoff. But when you don't really develop a story all that well, and then the two main people clash, well, you don't really care.
You're like, yeah, that looks cool, but
Yeah.
other than that, I'm just like,
It's like, okay,
you got to have depth to it.
Exactly.
Like, there has
Like,
to be
there-
some kind of substance to what I'm seeing.
the main point can't be these two are going to fight. No, it's going to be like, here's this problem, and then this is why the two eventually wind up clashing. And that's what makes it worth it to see that clash at the end. That's what, when you and I are watching Dragon Ball Z, that's why it's so fucking cool to watch Gohan go Super Saiyan 2 and fuck up Cell, because that whole point, he's been like a little bitch the whole time. He doesn't really know how to fight, and then he's brought up and he learns it, and then it's like, hey, you can't be a passive bitch this whole time. You gotta fucking stand up for what you believe
This
in.
podcast is going to lead into us writing fan fiction, and this fan fiction will become the best script in the entire world. And I
Yeah.
think we should write the movie right now.
All right, let's
This
go.
is our audition tape, Kathleen Kennedy.
George
if
Lucas.
you'd like to see it.
Hey,
John
George,
Favreau,
hey,
what's
George,
up, man?
George, look, if you want me to put a hit on Ryan Johnson, bro, just hit me up. I'll do it for a small
Want you-
loan of $1 billion.
Want you to cut him up, Obi-Wan.
I want you to cut him. I want you to cut him up.
On that note, we're at about like
yeah.
we're well over 3 hours.
We've
I think
discussed everything.
We
we gotta cut it.
We've hit all movies, side stuff, Mandalorian, all of that shit. So, yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in to the latest episode. We'll upload some of this to our social media accounts. We're gonna try to go back to the bi-weekly thing, but like I said the last time, who knows how that's actually gonna go. But thanks for tuning in. I hope you appreciated it. It was our longest podcast.
Before we end it, I would like to just finish on a toast that there's still hope in the galaxy.
I still love Star Wars as much as
Wait.
as much as you and I have shit on these last couple movies. I still love it. So,
Wait.
uh
Hold on. Before we toast, I'm going to play a song.
oh. Lainey's not okay with it. She fucking threw her hands up back there. I'm like,
What
come
you
on,
queuing
man.
up, dog.
Is it going to play?
I got it.
Throne Room?
Either or.
Just play it.
Oh, I got an ad.
Motherfucker.
Let's
I love
just end it.
I love ads.
Oh.
Well, no, we've waited too long now.
Good enough. There we go.
All right. Toast, boys, to Star Wars.
To Star
May
Wars.
the Force be with you.
May the Force be with us and with all of our viewers at home. Thank you.
Peace
My
out,
phone
guys.
fucking died.
Thanks so much for tuning
There's
in,
still
guys. We
hope.
appreciate it. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, boys.
Jesus